What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Lost Records Journal, Player One Visible's Lost Records Focus podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Adnan. My co-host, Eagle himself,
Yes.
Falcon's twin brother, Adam Evalt. You're here.
Evil twin. Let's put that on record that I'm the evil twin. I'm glad that more people think that I'm Falcon. Even though he's, I know that I'm not Falcon. I am Eagle. So thank you everybody for trying to get my identity out there.
The people have spoken, Adam. The people have spoken.
A certain person has spoken. Yes.
Yes, they have. And if anything, Adam, as well, this is probably our biggest episode to date now as well, because the podcast started, I believe, around about a year ago in March, and Lost Records Journal I think this is episode 21, and this is obviously our full review and spoiler cast for Tape 1, Bloom, which became available, in the week that we're recording. We're recording the 19th of February, so we're turning this over fast time. I've also done an impressions video on the channel as well, if you want to watch it, just to kind of get things out. But before you start as well, if you are new here, do consider dropping subscribe on the channel, turn notifications, like the video, share with your friends. You get to keep up to date with all Lost Records content we do as well. And Lost Records Journals is available on all podcast services. So we're available on Spotify, we're available on Apple Podcasts. We've got 72 followers on Spotify, 16 ratings on Spotify with 4.9 ratings. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, you can go and check us out there and download the episodes and like us as well, because it helps boost our visibility, because we are now in full swing Lost Records season. So Adam, before we start, a quick transparency for people. We did get review keys from Don't Nod. So thank you so much to Don't Nod for doing that. We are not a big outlet, but that is amazing. And also especially to Marin, Don't Nod Montreal's senior brand manager, for not forgetting about us, and then also making sure he came and made sure we had the game. And it's really, really deeply appreciated, because again, we are not a big outlet, but for the Don't Nod team to show that support to us, that is amazing, and we were really grateful for them. On top of that as well, I have actually bought the game as well. So I bought it myself on PS5 just because I want to support the developers as well. I want to make this as clear as possible that I'm not, my opinion is my opinion, but I also already had the money set aside for this game, and I want support Don't Nod, especially as an independent developer as well. So just give a bit of an FYI there. But Adam,
yes,
Lost Records, Bloom and Rage.
That is the name of the game, and the name
indeed
of our podcast, or part of the name.
Indeed, and Tape 1, Bloom is here. So for the context of this podcast, guys, if you are listening, we will be doing a review segment first with a review score, and then at the end there will be a spoiler cast. So do not watch the spoiler cast if you want to keep your story mind intact. This is all going to be surface level to start with, then a deep dive into the spoiler cast territory. I said this to Adam as well. For me, I need more playthroughs of this game. We're against time purposes right now, because if we weren't a Lost Records podcast, we would have more time with this before we even put it out. But because of that, and we're a Lost Records podcast, and people wanted to like kind of get this as soon as possible, we're just going to give you our opinions, because we've only done one playthrough, but it's going to be based on that, and there's a lot to be said about that. So as I said, we'll give you one more warning when the spoiler cast section comes up, but do be wary then after that point. And Player One Visible's social media outlets are all currently on a spoiler ban as well for Tape 1. So we have a full spoiler ban on here, and I've tried with thumbnails to be conservative. However, I will warn you now as well, there might be spoilers in the comments of the on the YouTube channel. There might be even spoilers in StrangeCast going forward. When I make it clear, we're going to be going to spoiler territory, because otherwise our job is impossible to do in this sense. So that's that. Adam, review time. Do you want to go first?
Well, I guess since you gave your impressions, I will, go first. What I generally think about the game is, I want to give you a riddle, Adnan. Okay.
Yes.
What does Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, and your hand, if I'm in the room with you and I speak in the British accents, have in common?
We're going to be here for a while figuring that riddle out.
They both slap, Adnan. This game slaps. Your hand slaps me when I go, oh, bloody hell. This game slaps. Okay? I don't care about these reviews coming out saying they're like, oh, well, it made me cringe. I don't like happiness because it make me cringe. Nah, man. This game is it. We'll talk about the bad on it, but overall, I only have a lot of good things to say about this game, this story. I like the creativity of what we're going to talk about in photo mode. I genuinely like this game a lot, dude. It slaps, man. Love it.
It's like, for me, if you got Oxenfree and put a monster can down its throat at like high sugary pace, that's what this game is like. It's like pure energy.
I just don't like how it was like a little tiny little monster can.
I genuinely think it's very, very good as a game. I think it's very, very. As Don't Nod gets as a storyteller as well, one of my fears was with Don't Nod, especially with Michel, was the aftermath of Life is Strange 2, and maybe a pivot away from some of the great qualities that made Life is Strange 2 a fantastic storytelling experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with Jean-Luc there, with Philip Bach there, with Luke there, they kept some of the great things that were there about Life is Strange 2, kept all the stuff about Life is Strange 1, and they create this new entity. Because for me, don't go into this experience playing it as a Life is Strange game.
No,
it's its own animal. It's its own thing. Yeah. It's got its shades. It's got its homage to the thing. I don't even
got style. Like success. It's definitely got the Michel Coe and Philip Bach style
and substance and soul. It feels like a bunch of people, not even Michel, a bunch of people put their hands on this product and injected just love and soul into it. And that just shows so much when you play this game, from the characters, the music, the art design, every element of this game. I absolutely adore it. It exceeded my expectations because I already had a high bar as it was. And, I do see a couple of negatives here and there that we will be talking about. But generally speaking, it was brilliant. It was what I wanted as well. I wanted it to be its own thing. I didn't want it to be a Life is Strange clone. I didn't want it to be repeating the same thing of 2015. We have moved on from this. Like, in itself, yes, it does still have the walking simulator approach, but the camera, which we'll come on to as well, changes things as well. And narrative storytelling has evolved at that point as well into 2025. This is a natural evolution because they've looked at the industry and seen, hey, Life is Strange 2 was a different vibe, and we went with that. And it worked, and it didn't work for other people. Oxenfree has had success with what it's doing. My heart goes out to the people at Night School Studio who've lost their jobs as well. That's just crazy, but that's different news as well.
Yeah, I wish we could talk about that, but wow, God bless Netflix, huh?
We'll bring that into StrangeCast, to be honest, because it is very vibey. So I'm going to bring it in because we're going to talk about that. But I think, like, generally speaking, it has soul with it, and that's the one thing I adored about this game. Like, from start to finish, I was invested. It was like, and almost like an extended version of Stand By Me, if anything. Like, because obviously Stand By Me is told in a very short time frame. It felt like if you had all the stuff before it in terms of telling why those guys are friends to start with. That's what it feels like. It feels like an extension of like all the stuff you never normally see in certain things. So the slow pace and other things didn't really like turn me off, as other people have claimed. But generally speaking, they knocked it out of the ballpark for me, and they did it in a way where it builds to it. It builds when you get to the end part of the game. I think people who personally were like, the pacing's an issue. For me, I feel like you're kind of like doing what Ridley Scott has said for a long time. When people say he's a dinosaur, and he's like, well, most people can't sit through a 3-hour film. And the same with when Scorsese criticizes people who watch, almost like, superhero films and don't watch like the old aesthetic films. This is no different from a game in 2008 in terms of the pacing. Yes, some of the pacing could be sped up in certain places. In certain places, you could do that. However, this is a game where you need to take your time with Swann. If you're trying to get to the finish line as soon as possible, the game's theme is lost on you. The game's theme for me is lost on you. It's a coming-of-age story of Swann Holloway. It is also a game that challenges nostalgia and perception as well with that. So instead of rushing to the end of this, because what's the end goal of this game? The end goal starts to emerge in the game as you're telling it. So what are you trying to get to the end to? Are you trying to get to the end of a murder mystery? Have you ever played Michel's games? Have you ever played a Don't Nod game?
That's what I was really going to bring up. Like, you bring up Scorsese and all that, but we really need to go into Michel Coe's style, because if I'm correct, the only 2 story games that we know from Michel Coe is Life is Strange 1 and 2. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Because he was an environmental artist in Remember Me.
Yeah.
Michel Coe knows how to land a plane. Like, he has proven that.
Yeah.
He has also proven that he has slow burn starts. Like, that's just his style, right? He doesn't come in with firecrackers right from the get-go, right? And I will say that at the beginning of this game, I would say the first 2 hours, I do agree with some contention. Sorry. Consensus contention. I'm ADHD brain here. But I do agree with some people's take that if they just played the first 2 hours, they would have just abandoned it. And I think that's my fear with PS Plus users, that you play the first 2 hours, it's kind of slow, you kind of abandon it. I do think that is kind of true. However, it is Michel Co's style. It is Phil Buck's style. That they are slow burn starts, but then episode 3 of both Life is Strange 1 and 2, that's where it starts to really pick up. And I think the end of this game, which we'll talk about, no spoilers, but the end of this game feels like the start of an episode 3. It feels like they're gonna get somewhere. Like it really does feel like things are established, and tape 2 is really gonna be just beat your face in kind of like storytelling. So this is marking down what Michel's style is. Slow burn starts going into episode 3, and then he lands the plane beautifully every time.
Yeah, I'll come on to Michel's style later as well, because in the story sense, because I do think he's got a very unique style, and especially at one point in the game as well, which I noticed as well. I think it's not being talked about enough, but I agree with what you're saying. Because I get where you can speed up in certain parts. Maybe the first part, I think maybe that would be good from a marketing perspective as well, as you said, to get people involved. If you bought it on PS Plus or you downloaded it, hook them in, get them in, and then get them a bit more invested. Maybe speed up things. Maybe add 1 or 2 layers with it. But for me, I think you need that. Like it reminds me of almost like Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings, where it's like you have that slow start. It takes them ages to get out of the shower, but we're developing things. We're getting character exposition. Swann in itself, the other argument you can make is because Swann's such a deep introverted character, that long period of time for you to get to where the things pick up, that's just a reflection of who she is. So it's like you take time to get to where the character starts to cook, because in itself, Swann starts to do that in the game. Again, we'll come on to more in the spoiler section, but she comes into her own. So it's like, it feels like it's culminatively building up, and it steadies itself to the point where if you start moving at a fairly decent pace, I think, then okay, you get to where you need to quicker, if anything. I think if anything as well, this might also be done on purpose because you want to show the art design off. Because obviously when you have Swann walking through the forest early in the game,
dude. Holy hell, what a beautiful game, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's gorgeous. I'm playing on an OLED TV right now. It's I am on a Series X on an OLED TV. Ooh, this thing's pretty. Oh, it's pretty.
Yeah.
What was I going to say though? But continue.
No, yeah, and shout out to Sam Bradley, who's art director, and Juliet, who's the lead character art. You and your team, everyone. I could get a list and I could read it out. I would like I don't have the full credits on my laptop at the minute, but like all of you have done incredible.
I was watching the credits, by the way, while they were rolling. It's like, we know that person, we know that person, that person follows us. I was like, hey, look, it's Bao. Like they talked about the studio plans. Like, hey, Bao, look at that.
That was honestly that was the first thing I did with Lost Records. I opened it up to see who's in the credits, and even it had Marsha in there as well.
I know. I was like, oh, yeah, Marsha.
But nice,
not matcha.
Revisionist history, don't talk about that anymore. but one thing I love is with Michel is the fact that all the people are like included in that, because Michel's talked about like with Life is Strange 1 having credits, and it's like they had freelancers, and when they did the remastered collection, he was worried about some people might not getting like credited properly. But I love the fact that they had all the people in that and they're all there, and it's like, yeah, it's nice to, after 4 years, seeing there's Marsha, there's Kathy, there's Mary, there's Marion, there's Luke, all these people you could. Yeah, Marin and like Michel, and you could see them all. And it was just nice to have it with that, and like with this concentrated experience, it's nice to put names to the faces. So it's the first thing I did when I went on there. I was like, kudos to it. And obviously, as I said, with the art designs from Sam and their team and Juliet and their team, like, oh, unbelievable. But so generally speaking,
I was gonna say, how about we rip off the Band-Aid? Let's kind of talk about what we didn't like very briefly. What didn't we like about this game?
The technical limitations of it.
I was gonna say, man, it's painful to say, but
which in itself as well. I'm on PlayStation 5, you're on Xbox, so we're giving two different perspectives here. I know I've been speaking to someone, and they've said that they've been running on the Steam Deck. Surprisingly, they've like had a good experience from this. Yeah, so I think I remember seeing Luke saying that like they were working on getting the Steam Deck version properly like up and running, because it is just an extension, but apparently it's running pretty well on Steam Deck, which is quite good to hear, if anything, so far. Yeah, this was my one fear, because I've reviewed Michel's very first game that he made in terms of as a director, and even with Life is Strange 2. And every time I used to write a review, it was like, and technical limitations are holding back Don't Nod here and that. And I think, if anything, when I played this game, I became very aware of the budgeting of this game and the size and scope of the Don't Nod Montreal team, and also Don't Nod. And it's not a dig; it's more in the sense that I do not even consider this game even anywhere near AA. Like, this
I was going to say,
game.
like, I didn't face any game-breaking bugs. I think someone in the comments of your impressions video said that his game kept crashing, if I'm correct. Yeah. I never got a crash. I never had a game-breaking bug. I didn't. I'm talking mainly about frame rates, and kind of like the character models kind of twisting around a little bit.
Yeah.
But did you face any game-breaking bugs? Did you face anything that impedes your time to play?
In one or two parts, the frame rate jutted a lot. I think there's like one point where I was in the bar and it's like the car behind me like sped past and it was like, it just started juttering a little bit. I was like, ooh, I was like, that's an interesting experience.
There's some jank.
And then it's jank. That's about, literally, I was thinking about this word before we even came on. But yeah, it's a lot of jank in there, which I think, like, in itself, I think because they can patch the game, that's not too bad for me for in reason. Hopefully they do patch it as well. I do feel something happened in the development of this game in terms of production, because it does feel like something has changed in terms of like the scale of the timeline. If anything, it feels like they were working under, from my opinion at least, feels like they're working under a lot of constraints. In terms of just getting the game done, you know what video game industry is like right now. So I noticed that, and then obviously I think there's like one point there's a really freaky moment where a model popped up in the corner of my eye and it just disappeared later in the game, and it like freaked me out. I was like, right. And I think there's a moment as well, I think in the bar where Nora's phone just like teleports into her other hand. It's like, what?
Really?
Yeah,
it
was like
that. Yeah,
it's on the table. It's like, and you see like the phone just like slide across into her hand. And I was like, okay. And even in the reflection as well, I saw like a character like shadow thing. I was like,
I saw that. Yeah, definitely. Like there were some times where like Kat's model kind of like did a little like NPC twitch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine in the grand scale of things. I can bring myself past even some, like there were some frame rate issues of playing. I can get past that, like frame rate, unless it's at like 10 FPS. Like I face some pretty bad frame rates, especially being an Xbox player. This didn't impede my time in playing. There was some times where it was like, oh, it took me out of the immersion of playing a video game, but for the most part, I think it was fine,
Yeah. Look, I love the council. I always tell people, go and play the council. I love it so much.
Talk about some shank, dude.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
Like, I'm pretty sure when I was reviewing back in the day, I even tweeted them saying, like, why is there like this body on the floor? It's just like a body that appeared in the floor. Yeah. I'll try and find the screenshot at some point, but like, that game had like a lot of issues, like technical issues, bugs and stuff. It was an independent studio that was making it, but great game for me. And it's like, I hope that they go and fix some of these things. They did say in the FAQ that they're going to do some patches, hopefully in the long run. So hopefully that helps this game.
I will
but generally speaking,
if we're talking about technical issues, I want to say, I know the Don't Nod team is watching. I love you. Please don't. I am not. Okay, let me preface this. Adnan, am I an audio expert? No, I'm an independent musician. I mix and master my own music, and it sometimes sounds jank. So I am not an expert when I say this. Okay, I say it because I know they're watching, dude. The audio design for me personally wasn't amazing. And I'm saying that in a way, just like, I'm not saying it was so bad. I'm just saying that I audio is a big part of like how I view games. I have a pretty nice 5.1 speaker set, has Dolby Atmos, has its subwoofer on it. So I like audio in my games. I set it to the wide setting in the audio. There were some times where the mix of the music was way too quiet, and sometimes like I felt like each character had a different type of microphone that they contrasted on. So like some people sounded like they recorded on a condenser mic, and then some people sounded like they went on a dynamic mic, and it just kind of sounded a little weird in my opinion. Also the 3D audio of the game, I did watch Kind of Funny's overview, and I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy that sometimes a 3D audio, when a person sounds like they're coming from the left, sometimes doesn't sound like where they're talking. And the last thing I'll say on that, this also is a game development bug. So this isn't really an audio bug, but sometimes people talk over each other. So like there's some lines that are saying and they don't line up with the other line. So sometimes Kat will say something and like Nora will say something at the same time and it kind of overlaps.
See,
yeah.
When you say that as well, there's one thing I noticed was when you, because when you're in this was another niggling thing I had with it. There's so much going on. So there's like moments where one dialogue would start and you'd hit a reminisce screen and then another audio would start overlapping on it.
Yes.
So it's like the audio started overlapping in certain areas. And I was a bit like, I just wish they put like a parameter in place where it's like,
I will tell you this. This was on Unreal Engine, yeah?
Yeah.
That's straight up an Unreal Engine. Like kind of bullcrap, dude. Because I've worked with Unreal Engine for a little bit. I've worked with game developers and done audio like with Unreal. That is straight up an Unreal. Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, no, I was just looking at to see if it's on Unreal. I'm like, why is it not mentioned here?
Okay. You just look like, oh, I'm super uncomfortable. Adam's talking about audio and his audio sucks, dude. But no, I will say that the audio limits on this, okay, like again, I'm not an audio expert, okay? I'm not trying to say that I would do better because I would not. But there were some times where I was just like, this was definitely rushed, I think. I think the budget was a little bit rushed on the audio.
It does feel like in certain parts it feels like development constraints caught up to them, I think, personally speaking.
That's what it felt like. It just felt like constraints more than was incompetence. I do not think this is an incompetent team. I do think that there was some constraints. There was working in the pandemic. There is working with Don't Nod's budget. So I do think that, like you said, I think it barely hits the AA mark. I think it does. But I do think that a lot of these things in technical aspects, both the audio and the frame rates, it has a lot to do with budget, timing, making sure we get out a good, proper game, you know?
You know what? I wish, this is another topic, another time, I wish PlayStation would just become the publisher of this franchise for the future. Do you imagine if they took like $2 million extra at it?
I don't have a PlayStation, but
it would be.
Yeah, I do wish that. Yeah,
I would even like them to do it. For example, if like the game is successful and it has like steady success, that PlayStation looks at it and be like, "Oh, actually, we'll do another future deal and we'll sign a deal with you, exclusivity deal for launching it just on PS Plus for PlayStation, but then we'll put it on other platforms." So it's just doing like a distribution deal, if anything. So like they have an import, but they won't impede other console releases. That would be great. Like, as long as it's like that kind of deal. But that's another conversation itself. But I did notice the audio issues because it did become frustrating in certain parts in terms of like
so I'm not
have
crazy.
A conversation.
Yes.
No, you weren't. Like it was like you'd hear one conversation happening here and then another conversation's happening over there, and the audios would start like overlapping in certain places. And I was like missing out on certain conversations where I was a bit like
Did you think that 3D audio like played out really well in this game, or is that just an Xbox issue probably?
I think maybe an Xbox. I didn't really experience it myself, to be honest.
Yeah,
I experienced an overlap on certain things that were happening in the audio, but generally speaking, I thought my audio was very good. I was actually going to praise.
And I think it really like does come with like my hobby because like well, I am paid. Spotify pays me as a professional musician myself because I'm professional now with my pennies of Spotify money. Like I listen to audio a lot. Like I mainly do audio. Like everything, my music, I listen to audiobooks, I listen to music, I get the best headphones. Like audio means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I think like it only stood out to me because I'm a freak. Like I am not a human being. So I do want to reiterate that I do not think this team is incompetent. I just think that it did kind of tell with the budget and timing.
Maybe so. I think like maybe it was something that happened because like in itself as well. I was going to praise the music. So I think the
music that's a different story, not just audio.
Like, but even the audio design in the game as well. Because I know Beatrix was as part of their audio team. But it's like when you're picking up things and you like making noises.
All of it. So that's that is part of audio design. That audio design, I loved it. It was so nice.
Yeah.
It was just, it was really satisfying, man. Yeah, the audio design was great.
Alive, though. Do you want to say it says it feels like soul? It feels like everyone sat in the same room and they were all in unison with the great ideas. It was like one idea, and it felt like everyone had a good input. And it feels like if you invested in this game and you developed it, your soul is in it. It feels like your soul is in it in some way, shape, or form. And when you're picking up items, it's like, and you're making like noises with it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude, that was great audio. And this my thing about Don't Nod games specifically is that the audio design on Don't Nod games are incredible. Have you played Jusant yet?
I haven't, but I will.
Stop. Like Jusant, amazing audio design. Banishers had some great audio design. This game has some amazing audio design. Like this, I feel like Don't Nod really does understand audio design. Like they are experts on that. Whether or not like I said, sometimes the voice acting, it sounds like someone got a condenser mic and then the other one got a dynamic mic. That is budgeting. Like that's straight up just budgeting. You know, you do what you can with what you have, right? The mix, even that's a preference thing. That is completely a preference thing. So that's not even like like an objective. That's not really an objective argument, but the audio design was nice, dude. It was nice.
Yeah.
When we're on bad things, we have to talk about bad things. How much we hate this game, dude. Like everybody else does. Giving it a 6 out of 10.
That's ridiculous. It's never a 6 out of 10.
Kind of funny. They were like, oh, we're going to do 6, 6.5. Like,
we'll talk about kind of funny stuff in
later.
Because
there's so much a later episode.
There's so much stuff to talk about that. Like, so I heard some ridiculous things. But anyway, generally speaking, I love the audio design. It added to the flavor. To Adam Walker and I haven't got their name actually. Is it Adam Walker? I feel like I messed that up. Yeah, Adam Miller, sorry. Adam Miller, Nat Walker, Ruth Radler, Nora Kelly, Milken. But oh my god, that soundtrack. Yeah. We've only heard half of it. I would even argue that could be the best soundtrack Don't Nod has ever produced for a game. Potentially. I need to sit down. There's still half a side. This could be a big,
Have you played Jusant yet?
But that's what I mean, though, because it's like you have Jusant, you have Life is Strange 1, you have the Jonathan Morelli scores. Yeah. There is something about this soundtrack.
Don't Nod loves music, dude. Don't Nod loves music. Like, 90s, you can't compete with that.
And even when they're playing in the background of certain scenes and they match the sound to the... That's what I mean. When you said, like, they know sound, they know art designs, they know storytelling, they know it all, man. Even Edward Kaplan's in the credits for this game. It's like, it's not even necessarily he's making all the art in the Life is Strange style. It's like a different art team, different direction. Yeah, it feels like it's built in, from what I know as well, I think it's built in Unreal Engine, where it looks still like a Life is Strange-esque spiritual successor in terms of just, if it was like in 2025, we're making a new Life is Strange game, it looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looks so nice to look at, and then the sound as well, the crisp quality of like the soundtrack coming into the certain moments, and then just the natural sounds as well when like Swann's in the forest and other scenes are playing out. It is so good just to listen to this game in volume sense. Besides the technical issues on the audio, as you said, like there are
technical, but again, I don't want to be stuck in a room with like Luke Bagados, like, oh, you think you can make better audio out of him? And just start shoving me like, make better audio out of him. Like, I can't.
I hope he does.
I'm just a loser. What's that?
Just disrespecting the bass before.
I know. I disrespected the bass and I disrespect the audio design. It's like, oh, make better.
I have to give caveats in certain respects because it is an independent. Like, that's what I mean. Like, imagine if like just a publisher came along and threw a couple more million at them as well, and they'd made this. We'd be like singing nothing but praises because it's like margin of error. And like, I get it as well. I have to be fair with the video game industry. It's brutal craft out there. I don't want these people to be in crunch culture. And if they can fix these things, then perfect. One or two minor blemishes in some of my favorite games aren't too bad. I have more of a bigger issue when it's like a AAA behemoth game that's coming out where it has more issues. So I'm like, hang on a minute. You have budgets and resources that you should be allocating there. This is Don't Nod doing it as a very small independent developer under different constraints doing this game.
Yeah, all the constraints against Evalt, which I love. I love Evalt right now. But all of the bad remarks about Evalt are, it's there because it's Obsidian backed by Xbox. Like that's something you can be like, come on, man. Yeah. Come on, man. You had the budget, you had the time. Come on. But like this game, like you said, it wasn't backed by PlayStation. It wasn't backed by Xbox. It was backed by Don't Nod, who is financially hurting right now, as we've been discussing on this podcast.
Mm.
You have to like give some leniency somewhere, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I'm generally speaking, I really enjoyed it. And before we like get into Spoilercast, there's like loads of little segments as well. You know, like as I said, for me, it was a winning formula to bring Philip back with Michelle and Luke as well.
Wait, before, do you have any other bad things to say before you talk about good? Because I feel like we're so excited to talk about the good that we just keep like saying like it was bad, but man, bad in a good way though.
See, like, and I'm being honest as well. Putting my bias aside, like I adore Luke Bagnos, I adore Michelle as well, and I adore a lot of the Don't Nod Montreal team as well.
These are people we talk to and we tweet at, you know.
I always see Michelle, like Michelle, what are you doing? No, putting my bias aside, and because of how the game's structured, because I'm critiquing it both on tape 1 and also tape 2, because that's why I find that this is no different from your conversation you had about the Expanse, saying that the Expanse will look better on when it's released in 2 parts. And I think the same with this game as well, because there's only half a game, and I know why they strategically spliced it in half to get more of an audience in terms of like getting people drawn into it. In the sum of those parts, I don't expect it to be much of an issue. And the first tape, I didn't really see much that actually, lip syncing.
The lip syncing once again. Remember how I said like, oh, we all knew from Life is Strange 1, Life is Strange 2, we learned lip syncing definitely was an issue here. Yes.
I criticized that in 2015, and every other podcast we did, I kept saying to you, I'm worried that hopefully they've kind of improved. It's limitations again, though. Like I would love a dream where, 100%. For example, Philip Bach is in his own studio there doing full performance capture with body and motion capture and also audio at the same time, and they do the same thing that Deck 9 has at the minute with Life is Strange. I would love to see that. The unfortunate reality again is that his budget's well out of the realm of Don't Nod for now, at least. So it's like, I can see that, but it's just some moments as well, the lips just weren't syncing at all. I even remember seeing certain points where it's like Nora's mouth would just move like ever so slightly, where it's like you just wouldn't see the proper like pronunciation things. And I'm like, I can pass it by, but it was a criticism I threw at the game, Life is Strange 1, and a lot of people did. We all threw at the same like thing, and it was something that the Don't Nod team had to work on. It was just a shame to see it creep back in. It was one of those niggling things, because it's a story game as well. You can't avoid it. So the game has to rely on character interaction, story, close-up shots, for example. So it's like when it's a close-up shot and you're seeing it, it's like a little bit more evident. But generally speaking, and I'm being honest with you, my honest opinion, outside of the technical limitations and the lip syncing, I didn't have much of an issue with this game. We haven't even talked about the camera yet. Like we haven't talked about the camera yet. Like, oh my
the photo mode and like the way you can do the camera. Like that's what I mean. Like I'm trying to throw my bias aside and say like, if I didn't like Life is Strange, if I didn't like interact with the Don't Nod team, if I didn't like all of this, bias aside, I still genuinely love this game, man. Like there's some nitpicks that I have, but like, and like trying to throw away my bias of knowing what the budget is, right? Because we both know what the budget looks like, but even then, man, it's a charming game.
Yeah,
like it's an absolutely charming game. We'll talk about reviews on another episode, but generally speaking, man, like I really did adore this game a lot.
Yeah, I can't even agree with the pacing and like it's really like people will make it out when people are saying it's the slowest thing since like I'm like, what? I'm like, it's not that slow. Like, but some of the criticism have been like, it's really slow and then it doesn't pay off towards. I'm like, remember this is a full game spliced in 2, and a Don't Nod story, which you need to remember, isn't about getting to the end goal. It's about the journey that makes it. This is a coming of age story.
We're
and
in a TikTok generation, Adnan. Like this is the TikTok
but
generation.
it annoys me though, because it's the same with Ridley Scott. And he said, I agree with him, because people are like, well, he's a dad. No, he's right, because you need to sit there and observe something. I love games like this. I love things with like Metal Gear and whatever. It's like
talk about slow starts, dog. Damn.
But hey. Yeah, but you need time with Swann, because as I said before, for me, that first 2 hours in itself, my metaphor as well, is reflective of Swann being the biggest, deepest introvert ever, because she's in her bedroom for so long, you can do things. That's the kind of this message I get from Swann. She's still an introvert, even in her adult form. You see her the way that she behaves. I just didn't find that much of an issue with it, to be honest. And it's like I find that critiquing weird. I think we're going through a lot of points as well, and I think I'll bring the actors into the spoiler cast because they deserve a lot of credit, especially Olivia Laporte and I think all four of the characters, even the rest of the actors as well. I think they're all fantastic. Camera though, before we go into that,
dude,
this camera. Let me put this out to you. This is what should have been in Life is Strange Double Exposure. The opening 10 minutes of Double Exposure, right? You see me kicking that game quite a lot, right? The opening 10 minutes where you use the camera. Yeah. Well, we both kick it. Don't you try and like put yourself out. We've seen the Nepo baby comment. Yes. The opening 10 minutes of Double Exposure when you play with the camera, right? People were like, why does that not come back? That's like, for example, the first opening 10 minutes of here, if we had a camera, the video camera, and we didn't use it ever again.
Yeah.
It's her character. It's her personality. This, for example, should have been what's in Double Exposure, where Max is using a camera all the freaking time. Because I had that camera open nonstop. It gave me shades of Outlast when you play as Ethan and you're walking through the asylum with the camera, even with the light on and off at certain times. It gave me shades of Resident Evil 7 with the way they told the story through tapes and a video camera. It is fantastic because it brings the rest of the world alive. Sometimes I walked around not even realizing it. I had the camera open, recording things and not observing it because once I put the camera down, I could interact with something. And it felt like I was living two different worlds there. It is fantastic. I thought at first it might be like, okay, they're overselling this in a certain extent. I felt like maybe it will be limited. By the end of the game, you can still record graffiti. You can still record all kinds of different things. It's non-stop. And it feels like it was like, okay, we're going to have a character called Swann Holloway, and she uses a camera. And the camera has to be there in every way, shape, or form. It's the same as Max Caulfield. She can rewind time. And that has to stay with her the entire game. Yeah. And it feels like that constantly. I was so immersed with that camera.
It felt like a useful tool. Yeah, like every time. You know, like I would just try to capture images like, oh, like I'm on the playground. Like, oh, it's the forgotten playground. You know, it's just like there's different moments you can do. I didn't really play with the video editor at a lot, but I just like capturing things. I just like that essence of it. Yeah.
I think the video editor works well later in the game. So when you're doing like all the spotlight segments, you can record more footage. So then you can start moving during the section, right? Because there's certain segments you are limited with like what you're changing in the order. So it's like when you get to later in the game, it's like fantastic to just kind of like start mixing things around. And it has like audio afterwards, like Swann tells the story of things, which is really nice. Yeah. But generally speaking, that camera just shows again that this game is an evolution of where 2015 storytelling is. Because when you look at the opposite series, i.e. like Life is Strange, for example, at the minute, that feels like a legacy sequel as well. It feels like a legacy sequel and it's never innovated. This game comes along and it's like, here's a video camera, start messing around with it. It's like almost like, if you were making a game, you had a talk boy and you start recording things and you start being a bit of a snoopster.
Yes.
That's where you need to kind of like have the innovation. It's at the center of the game. It stays there and it stays there from the beginning to end. And it's freaking great from start to finish. It can only get better as well if they wanted to tweak fine tweak it in certain places. For me, it adds to the experience because this is what, for example, Oxenfree lacks. Because Oxenfree is done in a certain story style because it's very, as it is, it's a side scroller essentially, right? And it has the radio, and the radio's that interactive part, but the radio's limited, isn't it? You can listen to things, you might be able to walk around, but it's still limited. This feels like Oxenfree, as I said, but like 10 times that. It's like you basically have the camera and you're walking around constantly, record, shoot, remember, And it's also like, for me, again, challenging that perception of nostalgia as well. People like, you need to get further in the game, and it's like some people like the 90s setting is like, they're like, oh, this is the 90s and this is the 90s and this is the 90s. I'm like, but they're also trying to tell you they're saying this is the 90s because you're playing as an adult, remember, in a young girl's body. So you have to remember
you're reflecting back to the 90s. You wanted to be reminiscent and be like, oh, you remember this? Member berries, man. That's dumb.
Absolutely. Member berries. It's like it has to be like that. So it's like when you play with the camera, I had so much fun with it in terms of like just messing around with it. I love how it's always part of the story. It becomes part of her personality. And I thought it was a fantastic thing to have in the game.
Another fantastic thing in this game, the photo mode, dude.
Oh, yes.
Dude. Oh my God. The photo mode is so good, dude. Like there's times where like there's photo modes in games and they kind of like clock it in like, oh yeah, it's like change the angle around, take a picture. But there are so many frames and stickers and filters and ways you can manipulate you can do this in cutscenes, you can do this in gameplay. There's so many ways that it gives you freedom to be creative, because again, I think there's like 60 different stickers that you can put on like the game, like onto there, and the frames. Did you play with the photo mode at all?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. It was so cool, dude. Like, and that's the thing. Avowed does not have a photo mode, and there's so many
Life is Strange Double Exposure does not have a photo mode. The main character is a photographer. Life is Strange, I think the only game really that had a photo mode was the iOS port for Life is Strange 1 on the iPad. And it was like, I was like, that's a fantastic idea. I'm sure they're going to integrate in the game. No. And it's like, you sit there with this one, but this is again Michel style though. It's also the art department's team as well. This is what Don't Nod is known for. Artful games as well. So they have a great talented art team. They're like, oh, actually, let's do some stickers on the frames.
So good.
And it's like,
Chef's kiss,
the 90s, like 90s frames you can throw onto like photo mode and like start.
Yeah, you can put it on a CRT TV. Oh my God, it was so good, dude. Like it was excellent, man. Like, and the freedom that you have. And again, with cutscenes, you can have a photo mode. I'm like, thank God, dude.
Yeah.
But Avowed, dude, doesn't have a photo mode, and that's disappointing to me because it's such a pretty world in Avowed, and I want to take like better shots, better frames, and like have my character do a little pose, but the photo mode in this game, chef's kiss.
But it just adds some more of the elements. So you have the video editing feature in the game anyway with the camera. Then you have the photo mode, and it's like, imagine. I'm just hoping that this game, for me as well, and this is a hot take, I hope that this game is a steady success. So it's a very good success with Return. And it gives Don't Nod a good environment to make more games, because is it a good thing for it to be a sleeper hit immediately? Remember what happened to Life is Strange as well. Don't Nod has never climbed out that shadow from the first game. And also, Square Enix and Deck 9 have never climbed out the shadow of the first Life is Strange game because of how successful it was. If this is just a steady success, it'll give them room to make more anthology games. And then hopefully, one flies off. But at least it can lay the foundation of it. A steady success with great returns, and then that's it. Not a sleeper hit necessarily. As long as it can get building for the future, that's fine for me. I'm happy with that, because I don't want it to be the expectation where it's like sleeper hit, and then next minute it's like, oh, should we do a Diaz Brothers story? Maybe it didn't go well for us last time. And I'm a bit like, I don't want to see that again. So it's like, I'm hoping that it gets it builds a community, builds an Oxenfree style community, gets popular, and then hopefully there's a game in the future at some point where it's like fantastic. There we go. And even if there's like a potential of doing a publishing deal as well with like a publisher with caveats. So it's like with PlayStation, they're like, we'll do a deal with you. You can put it on PS Plus at launch, and obviously you're fine with distributing it on other platforms at the same time. Maybe there's a caveat. As long as they keep the IP, maybe there's a caveat for a deal to be made there. In a benefit, look, I'm looking at the long-term benefits for it, because I think this game shouldn't be slept on by anyone. I think it should not be slept on. It's a fantastic game from start to finish.
Sure.
And I'm like, genuinely, like, we've had so many things about it. Even the accessibility features as well, even when you start off as well, and all the trigger ones.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like little things like that are always really helpful for different people and different experiences, which is always quite nice. I think we'll jump into should we jump into our Spoilercast shortly before, or you said you wanted to do the review scores first?
Let's do the review score and then just jump right into Spoilercast. Yeah.
So for the new listeners, welcome as always. Me and Adam have a very definitive review scale on this channel for StrangeCast and everything. It's a 10-point scale, but we do it in 5 stars, so it can be 0.5 variations of it. And obviously we did our last one, which was Double Exposure. The review is unflattering, unfortunately, for Life is Strange Double Exposure. There are lessons to be learned from that game, but we are going to reintroduce the same scale. So me and Adam have our own independent score, and it combines to create the Lost Records Journal's definitive score for Tape 1, Bloom, which in itself as well, I'm very thankful, and I had no doubt this game was going to be great as it is, because it's a Don't Nod game. I was thinking at some point, I was like, if this game is bad, and we're doing a podcast about it since the very beginning, this is going to be very, very difficult, but I believe in you, Michel. I knew Don't Nod.
Yeah, that's why we made this podcast, because we knew it was going to slap, dude. Yeah,
and we've been covering this game for 4 years. Like, since Don't Nod Montreal was a thing, when I think it was when like there was like 6 of them. It's like we've been like bothering Frederica for like years about managing director role. We've probably go for that, but like we've been covering it for that long. Adam, would you like to go first?
Okay.
Yes.
You're gonna have to convince me of one score or another.
Okay.
I'm either thinking a 2 or a 2.5. Like, which one should I? I'm generally thinking like 4 or 4.5. I don't think I can give this 5 stars. Mainly because there are some technicalities, like the frame rate. There are some things that I can't give it a perfect score. There is pacing issues. And that's, again, not the fault of Don't Nod, but I just can't give it a perfect 5-star rating yet. But it's definitely not below a 4. I can tell you that much. I'm not giving this a 3.5. I'm in between giving it a 4 or a 4.5. Convince me to go which way.
Oh.
Are you giving it a 5?
No.
I was about to say, yeah.
I can't justify a 5 in with the bugs and certain other things with it. I think it's hard because I don't even see the thing is though as well, because it's like for me, in my expectations, this is where I hope Michelle never hears this. In my expectations already, Tape 2 is either a 4 point or a 5 star. So it's like I don't want to sit here giving this a 5 star or a 4.5, and then the second episode, like you said as well, Michelle lands. Michelle and Jean-Luc land. Michelle and Jean-Luc land, right? But there is always the caveat something happens here that was unexpected. I doubt that, but there's always unexpected. On the review consensus, my review on this game, it was a 4 at first.
Yeah.
That's what I was initially thinking.
First few hours, I'm giving it a 4, but then you jump into the second half.
Last 3 hours, if not the last 2 hours, if not last an hour and a half, it like trickles to 4.5.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's holding me back from giving a perfect score, in my opinion, even if the critics don't agree with it, I don't really care about critics' opinions as well. In terms of, I've seen it with I've seen it with Life is Strange and the surface level reviews. As someone who's covered this game for years, knows a lot of these developers by name, follows their work, researches them, snoops on them. Sorry about that if you know that. Snoops on them and learns their style and signature. The last second half makes it almost a 4.5 in my eyes. The revelations, the things that happen, the mystique, the mystery, the story, the coming of age story, narrative cohesiveness. There's a lot of things there. So I'm literally sat where I'm almost sat at 4.25 in between where you're at.
I'm in the same boat. I'm like, I can't, like, it's definitely not below a 4. I can say that for sure. This is not below a 4. I can't give it a 5 because the audio is a little bit cracked. But
my position is, and I'll do this definitively, my position is this first tape, in my opinion, now is a 4.5. Because in the conversation we've had so far, I've not been able to show too many negatives towards it. And the 0.5 star rating is being held back by the technical issues and the lip syncing and certain caveats I had about this game. And some like the dialogue exchanges where you start overlapping things. That's my thing. I don't care about the pacing. The pacing's not like this massive abomination people make because
it's 100% a preference thing because again, you're talking to the TikTok generation that if the video doesn't click you in, just swipe up. If it doesn't click you know.
I saw people say about the during the way the game's structured in terms of you flash forward and flash back as well. People are like, I wish you were just grounded in one part for too long. I was like, no. I was like, I played I love
Creed, dog. Like, come on.
But I love Quantic Dream's Beyond Two Souls. And even before they patched that, do you know, even before before Quantic Dream patched it where you could play it in order, I was like, it's fine being told out a story because the entire point is that her memory's fragmented.
Preference.
Yeah, but like Jodie Holmes' memory is fragmented. That's the entire point where you play different points, but you still have a story that is told in cohesion. It still tells you where the timeline of events are. So it's the same with Swann, even if it flash forwards for a second for a very minor scene. The entire point is that because it's a flashback. They're telling flashback stories here when they're trying to remember things because it's nostalgia. Anyway, we'll get into that into Spoilercast. My position is, and my personal opinion at this point, I'd give it a 4.5.
I'm going to give it 4.5. You've convinced me because there's not a lot. There was no.
What else is there? What else can you criticize? You minor.
That's what I mean. There was no game-breaking bugs. No. Yeah, like there's nothing impeding me from playing this game. There's nothing. There's no bugs. Again, like in Double Exposure, there were a couple game-breaking bugs. There were some things that I couldn't get past because the puzzles weren't telling me where I needed to go. I knew exactly where I needed to go. All the bugs were just jank. It was just jank. There's nothing impeding me. and the audio was presentable. Like it might not have been like an audiophile's dream, like glazing over, but it still was good audio. It was still good acting. I'm 4.5 out of 5.
I can't not give it a 4. I've given Michel's loads of other his other games like 4.5s or 4s and stuff. I don't see how I can give it like in a realm of I can't go below 4. That's just like even more ridiculous. And for me, where can I go on the scale? Because like if I give it a 4.5 at this point, the expectation's set for where I expect Take Two to land, which is either on the same rating or the higher rating. And I didn't say enough negative to think that there's enough negative here for me. Even the pacing and stuff, I don't really agree with a lot of people's consensus on like the storytelling. I see it in a different format. I see it as like traditional storytelling. I feel it as well. The way the story is told, it's almost like 90s-esque, where it respects like a long storytelling process, where in the 90s you watch films and TV shows where it wasn't made for a TikTok generation and it was built over a period of time as this game was. My opinion is a 4.5.
Yeah, we're going to stick by that. The Lost Records Journal's official review is a 4.5 out of 5 stars on this game.
Yeah, I'm more than happy with that. It deserves it. It's fantastic. I want people to play it. It's so cheap as well. Go and get it on PS Plus as well. If you somehow manage to get it. Cheap as chips, yeah. So honestly, it's fantastic. Yeah. It's an amazing game. It's going to be one that literally it's not even a sleeper hit. It's one of those games that people are sleeping on. That's the irony of this game. I think like that's the thing with it. It's like it's already in itself great. And if you are a Don't Nod fan and you love Life is Strange, you should be playing this. And even if you're one of those Life is Strange fans who's like a Deck 9 more fan, if anything, I like Deck 9 as well. I don't choose Wars and Allegiance as well. I think you need to understand what Don't Nod does for its storytelling and separate those two entities. We always talk about in the podcast how different their storytellings are. It's like you need to respect that for what it is. Adam, your final warning now, guys. Spoilercast territory, right? We might not cover everything in this game because a lot of things happen, but we will cover them in future segments as well. Feel free to leave comments if you want any other topics discussed. We can bring them into topics for Lost Records Journal because we have a 2-month wait now before the next episode comes out. So there's plenty of time to discuss things. Your final warning now. Spoiler territory enters here. Do not blame us for anything that happens. Adam, where do we start on spoiler territory?
I wet myself because you scared me so much. Should we start there? Should I change?
The
Bloody Mary,
didn't you?
Let's, you know what? Let's just start. We're gonna do highlights because it's a 6-hour playthrough. So let's talk about that. My playthrough was around 6 hours. Mine was. Yours, you took a little slower.
Yeah, it was long, guys. Don't worry about that. Mine was a long playthrough.
Yeah. Mine was about 6 hours. So we're going to go over like special highlights of the game to not talk about everything. But let's talk about the relationship that Swann has with her mom. Like that was...
You just took the words out.
Yeah.
When I said it to you before about Michel's storytelling, this is one of the most... I was about to say that Swann Holloway's mom, right? Yes. And it'll go under the radar for other people and they won't talk about it. That is the most nuanced storytelling in the entire game. Because Swann Holloway, when people are saying to me, this is 90s, that mom is representative of the 1990s. Yes. That mom is, for example, like you going up to your mom saying, I'm autistic, and she's like, you know, and your dad's over there,
which has happened.
Like 1,500 cars, yes. And the same, we live in that generation. We were the millennial trauma generation, as it was. And it's like, for example, if you went up to your dad and was like, "I'm autistic, I've got ADHD," your mum's fine, she's fine. She's like doing something completely ADHD on the spectrum.
Which my dad was ADHD, and he's like, "I don't have ADHD." I'm like, the evidence stands. It's right there.
Her mom is reflective of that. And it's like, even with when she's like saying to Swann, have you got a date? Have you got this? Oh, here's some calorie counted bars. Oh, you should do this. And it's like,
the scale under the bed.
Oh,
she bought her the scale, dude. Let's talk about that, and also how the 90s represented fat kids. Like that, bro, there is a movie called Heavyweights. It was by Disney. And I believe it came out in the 90s. The 90s and fat kids did not mix. What's
Nutty
that?
Professor? Nutty Professor?
Nutty Professor was a lovable character. You step back.
But I'm not gonna diss Eddie Murphy, but I get your point though.
Wait, have you seen Heavyweights on Disney?
I've not actually seen it now.
It's got Ben Stiller in it, dude. Oh my god.
Ooh.
I believe Kenan Thompson, a very young Kenan Thompson, is also.
Oh
No.
yes.
Wait,
Legend.
yes, I believe Kenan Thompson is in that movie. But very like a kid Kenan. So it's like it's a whole movie about fat camp and how these kids just like can't pretty much succeed in society because they are fat kids.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, the 90s, and if you were just like Swann's not fat. Swann has some meat on the bones. Let's mind you. If you have meat on your bones in the 90s, you're dead. You are awful, dude. If you're gay in the 90s, nope, all steps off. If you watch the movie Philadelphia, you'll know that. Like a lot of things that we might think is body shaming or like might be very very minuscule. This game really does get the impact of that. Talking about again how her mom portrays like how Swann is fat. It's just little hits, right? She gets her the fudge cakes, but the diet fudge cakes. She gets her the scale, just for on her birthday, just to see. Oh, you have to share your snacks with your friends because there are 150 calories. Like just little snide remarks.
Do you know? And that as well. The juxtaposition is where you're getting sniper remarks from Swann's mom. Corey is going full blown, so you have literally the perfect balance of the 90s where it's like you're fat, and then she's like, "Oh, you should. Here's a calorie bar." So it's like literally the opposite on both spectrums of like it shows like sniper shot, full blown shotgun, and it's like that's the approach where it's like it's held so well with Swann because it's like that is just a continuous message throughout her game.
Did you get the storyline where somebody shoved her, like why she didn't join a swim team?
Oh, I don't think I did.
Okay, yeah, that was another touch on like the fatso thing in the 90s. Also, I have to say this again. Okay, I'm going to embarrass myself here on the podcast.
Before you continue as well, this is also what I was going to say to you before about Michel as well and his storytelling. Because for me, with Swann's mother as well, this is kind of like his reoccurring theme in games. So obviously with Karen, for example, different approach with a mum, Max's mum in the first game. It reminded me very much similar to Steven Spielberg in the way he has fatherless figures in his films because of his relationship with his father and his close relationship with his mum. And this is why, for me, Michel is like an author in his own storytelling design because he has very specific key characteristics come up. And for the mother and daughter relationship to come back in the front of it, and a missing father in this sense, but like mother and daughter, it's like the thematic, especially that relationship dynamic, really reminded me of Michel's kind of thing. And it was like, I'm like, it's so good for that. And a shout out to Desiree and Nina who helped with the writing process, the American writers that came with Jean-Luc.
Yes.
And Michel, because like they really refine, especially when they're older as well, the reflectiveness of them as well. It's quite nice to see them as adult forms talking about it, and it's like you can see that American writers have come in and helped tweak that as well. They're just fantastic. I'd love to see more of that work as well at some point as well.
Right.
Just kind of get
you ready for this? Now this is in 2002, but mind you, I was still a chubster in the 90s. I want to give my credentials. I had a little meat on the bones.
It's a rookie card.
Yeah, that's my rookie basketball card. There we go. For your audio listeners. Yeah, that's your boy in 2002. So again, like I was a chubby kid in the 90s. So I was a chubby kid in America in the 90s. I have range. I have the credentials to be talking about this. So I just want to put that up. You might have been a chubby kid, but you were in England where they love chubby kids. They're like, wow.
I'm also Asian as well. Trust me, like life after 2001 was very difficult for a long period of time. Like, it made it it's still difficult when I came to like America for a visit. I was like, oh, fantastic. We got stopped.
Yeah, they wouldn't call you Asian in America in 2001.
No.
They would not use that word. They would use another A word. Yeah.
It's even more offensive that I'm not that person either. It's like, what's on there? It's like,
God bless our country, huh? But yeah, no, I will say though that like this really did get the hits of what it felt like to be a chubby kid in the 90s in America. The little side remarks and just saying like, why not a lettuce wrap instead? And again, bullies coming in just saying like, shut up, fatso. And again, what I was going to say about the storyline. in the swimming pool. The reason why Swann didn't go on the swimming team, she was all dressed, ready to go, and then a boy pushed her into the pool, and he said the reason was, I wanted to see how big of a splash you would make.
Where does that happen in the game? I'm just trying to think if I've honestly, because I'm still processing
during
so much about this game.
The truth and dare section in the cabin.
No, because I'd pick different choices.
Yep. Yeah. So, by the way, what did you call the cabin? I swear to God, if you don't call it what I call it, we're not friends anymore.
What did you call it?
I called it what did you call it?
No, I want to play this game.
You have to.
I'm not playing truth or dare.
Did you go with rest?
No. Right, okay.
Such a boy. What the hell? What was the other choice? It was what was it called? It was something. It was Pharaoh's Rest, and then there was Pharaoh's, like, what was the cabin called?
I'm gonna hold my hands up here. This is like, again, I played too much of this and I don't remember it yet.
Yeah, so, I can't remember what the other choice was called.
I'm still trying to remember the other things that I'm currently backlogging my mind for a spoiler. Because as I said, if we had more time with this, like, it would have been like I would have had my notes down. I did have notes. I deleted them for some reason, but like they're not here. By the way, as well, what does Swann show? Did you call it? Because I've seen it in the trailer and it's the wrong one.
I called it
because it's the Swann show.
No, I didn't call it the Swann show. I called it like Swann Away.
There's one
like
right answer better be on this. It's the Swann Files. If it's not the Swann Files, we're calling it a day here on this podcast.
Oh, you can't wait. Swann Files was an option.
Yes, it's the Swann Files.
I didn't see that one.
She's got X-Files stuff on the roof of her roof.
I didn't see Swann Files.
Right, don't you dare call me out for what I called my velvet little den that I had. Do not ever call me out. The Swann Files is the correct answer. That is the correct choice. Michelle,
where the Swan goes, I think it was my title of the show. Yeah.
Oh God,
I did not call it the Swan show though. I was like, no, that's lame, dude. That's lame.
No, the Swann Files is the only show that she has as well. I remember that. As I embedding that in my memory, I was like, you need to remember the Swann Files. Do not forget about that. I can't remember what the den was called. I can't remember what I picked for it now. It was like this was amid me storming through half the other part of the game I was doing. I was like, oh, I'll reveal my answer when I go back and play it again. I'll come back and answer that definitively.
But I did appreciate the fat talk. Like, it was, again, as a chubby kid in America in the 90s, it did feel like, yeah, that was real, dude. I'm glad they put it on the trigger warning, because that knife dug in deep in my skin, dude.
But even the other language as well, where it's like, I think where they're like, oh, and she's sucking a D, and it's like, and the way that they phrase that kind of stuff, and like all the others, I forgot about the 90s. I forgot about the WWE Attitude Era and South Park and Simpsons and all that stuff. I was like, it's not flashing before my eyes. I was like, it's all coming back into cultural relevance. I was like, even
Nora hiding her sexuality, just saying like, oh, if I would kiss a girl, just kidding, I wouldn't. Like, because in the 90s, you didn't tell anybody that you were gay or any kind of feelings, or if you had autism, none of that, dude. Like, this game really did kind of like hit how America was in the 90s as a teenager. Like, now I was a kid in the 90s, so I wasn't a teenager. You know, I'm not 43. Like, I don't know who's 43 right now. Dinosaurs. We're in our 30s. Our knees still bend, dude. But like, we were kids, but it still hit, man. It still hit. And it's surprising because, again, like Luke and Michelle, and Philip, Jean-Luc, like, they all grew up in Paris in the 90s, right? Or in France, let's say. So the fact that they got this right, it really hit the nail, man.
They know how to do high school settings and teenagers.
They do.
And that stuff.
They do.
It's true as well, because at most of this game, I really just wanted to hug Swann at certain points, because I realized like how brutal American fatso, like, you know, when they call them like fatso and they use that fat culture. Like in the UK, you have it like nowhere near as like someone being at a different weight, and it's like brutal when they're doing it in this game. And I'm like,
was it brutal in the 90s for you as a kid? Like, were you a chubby kid? Let's put it that way.
No, I was quite tall anyway, so it didn't really bother me.
So like in America, like, if you just had meat on your bones, oh, done for, dude. You were done for.
The British equivalent was more like it was a bit like more homophobic, if anything, with the way that they used to do it. So it's like it's different American like culture, and it shows in this as well. Like you can see it in the 90s as well, like how brutal some of the themes were, and like some of the way that they were talking. It's like I felt they captured in itself. I would argue, in a certain respect, in a respectful way, that they could have probably been a bit more, the nozzles tweaked, and they make it even more extensive. Because I think that is the truth though as well. Like even when he's like firing shots, Corey, I think that could have been even a bit more on top of it.
We have to also imagine this is the Midwest, so they were a little nicer back then in the Midwest.
Maybe so, yeah.
If you put that in Philly, like I told you to, Michelle and Luke, then you could have just turned it all the way up. But no, you have to go in the Midwest where it's nice and safe and everybody loves each other. Put that in Philly.
It was very good. Like I think Swann's story is great. I just want to hug her. I think she's such a great protagonist. I think like she's got so much nuance about her, and it's like kind of like it's like hesitation for Jennifer to do it. Like even when you see moments where she's like stands up to Corey and says something, where it's like done in a timid, like shy way, and it never like she frustrates you, but I think she frustrates you if you're not an introvert. So she always forever remains that person where it's like it feels like until that moment when she gets to the abyss, which we'll talk to as well, where it's like you can choose between I think it's freedom and strength that she has as well, the options. It's like that's the moment where I feel like Swann becomes her own person, where it feels like she's getting her own character in terms of like she's getting a little bit more comfortable with being who she is and she needs it. But I felt so sad for her early in the game where it's like she goes up to the ice cream vendor where Autumn is, and she's like
a different time, please.
Yeah, and like space cadets, and I'm like, oh, she's so cute and adorable. And then when she's hovering around, and she's like, I like films. I'm like, no, like Swann, no, invite her to the films, man. Invite her. I felt it's like so sad. I was like, no.
Were you more introverted as a kid? Like, did you really identify with Swann in that way?
Yeah, Swann.
I was an asshole.
Swann is on. Well, no surprise there. That's the Philly. That's why they didn't say Philly.
I'm gonna say when I was 6, man. I'm still kicking, dude.
That's why they didn't say it in Pennsylvania, did they? I was 50-50. I've always attached myself to Max quite heavily, and this one was like I would say I'm very similar to Michelle in certain respects in terms of like introverted, like nowhere near creativity. Let's be very clear with that. But like shyness, introvertedness. I feel like Swann as well. So it's like Swann's themes were really hitting with me, like all the way through the game, even to adult Swann as well. I thought it was really good, and I think like I like adult Swann being first person as well. It adds like that kind of connection. You have the personal connection. You do it with like Resident Evil 7 games and stuff like that. It's like you feel like you're becoming that person, which is quite nice. Generally speaking, I love Swann. I thought she's fantastic. She just feels like Max's sister from another time. Mm-hmm. She really does for me. She just feels like if you basically had like a giant crossover in the metaverse style and stuff, and Max and Swann would be best friends, in my opinion. Max from Life is Strange 1 as well. It's just about that, but like they would be like very close friends. They feel like they are very similar. But I feel like Swann is also her own person, which is really nice. And then on top of that, an amazing performance from Olivia Lepore as well, who like knocks it out of the ballpark, like putting the accent on to start with, and then delivering an adult form version of Swann, because it's not even we're swapping voice actors here. We're using the same voice actor for both voices, and when she plays a young Swann, probably might not even be her personality, but playing an introverted character and a bit of hesitation. You have to remember as well, she's a professionally trained actor. She's dumbing down her performance in a respectful way to play a young girl and making like those space to get and ice cream and here's like ants and stuff. She's adding that kind of like touch to it, and she's fantastic for it. So like kudos to her as well. She's like done an amazing job. And again, testament to Philip Bark as well, because I think like she would admit as well, being like, I worked with an incredible voiceover director. So really great for that. I'm going to throw you a little bit of a loop here as well.
Ooh.
What was your reaction when Nora turned up at the table in the adult version?
Oh, when Nora turned up, I was like, they hit the nail on the mark of how that person would grow up to be. Like they hit that nail on the hard. Like the fact that like all what Nora wanted was to be famous. And that's what she would go. And my mom's in LA and all this stuff. And then she came to the table with the white dyed hair and the nice shoes. And like that's the other thing. The modeling of this game, going from the kids to the adult, they aged them perfectly, dude.
Yeah.
Like it was so good because Nora looked like an adult. Like it still looked like Nora, but better, like no acne, none of the skunk hair.
Well, she still has she still sees shades of it 'cause she's a
Shades
celebrity influencer, and you can still see the shades of it. So it's like
of her
I
acne
don't know.
scars. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like almost like it's intentional in the sense that she like leaves them a little bit exposed despite being a influencer, but also like is she doing it on purpose or
Yeah.
is it just like naturally scarred as you said and it's like being left
Were
there? It's
you
like
we're learning a lot about each other's youth here. Were you like acne ridden in
oh
your
god, especially forehead.
yeah, like how you still have like some acne scars up here?
Yeah,
It's not really on purpose. Like that, like the amount of acne that Nora had back then,
yeah,
that's gonna scar, dude.
yeah,
I have plenty of acne scars, dude. I didn't know I had acne until I got glasses. I'm not
yeah.
even kidding you, dude. Like I put on my glasses and I just saw pizza like all over. And I screamed from the bathroom. My mom's like, I just thought you had great self-confidence. Like,
90s mom, 90s mom,
yeah.
90s
She
mom. There's your
she was
reflection.
just like straight up, just like, I just thought you had great self-confidence. You didn't know you had acne. I'm like, no, I didn't have acne. I didn't know. I didn't have glasses.
I'm getting the
Like,
flashbacks here. Like this game needs me like to get into some counselling. Like when I like when it hits you because we're like young millennials as well. Like I'm a '93 baby as well,
yeah,
and you're a
91.
91 baby. So you're like literally on the bottom end of that. So it's like you're starting to see more
Yeah.
things that I'm not seeing.
And
As well, in
Luke
terms of
Bagados
references.
wrote a dinosaur to school, so
But Nora is the older version as well. Yeah, she
yes.
did catch me when I saw her. I was like,
I'm never
I
gonna
can
get a
see
code from
this.
Don't Nod again, am I?
No, you're not. We've blown this a chance as well. I thought she was really interesting when she turned up. I was like, because one of the things that happens now as well, where I'm at in my life as well, and where you're at as well, we're at that. We're 10 years younger than the main character as well, because Swann's in her 40s. But I feel I'm resonating with Swann Holloway in terms of
Yes.
reconnecting with older friends, and it's like what you're doing for your job and what you've become. Like,
And she's working in a retail bookstore. There's nothing
writing a book,
Yeah. She's still collecting mushrooms. Like she's her own lonesome person. Like
Yeah.
again, that's why I do like about the adult versions of these characters, because like when I say I was an asshole when I was a kid, that's still true today. Like you don't really change too much as a person. You grow and you learn and you learn how to be a better person. But like for the most part, your personality is like it's still there.
Also, vindication time for every person that called me out in the Lost Records Journal saying, "Oh, Adnan, people change when they get older. Oh, Max Caulfield can be in a completely different person when she's older. Oh, I see people change all the time from 16 to like 30 massively." I proved you wrong with this game. Look how similar those. I'm going to die on this hill as well. The coming of age story, young adolescent, is usually when you go from like 10 to 18 and you refine yourself. So from like 18 to 30, I'd argue you refine certain elements of you, because I've known you for like 4 years now. I know there's still elements of who you are, but it's like you're finding different things in your life now that are taking you into the right directions.
There's
like,
better control. Like I control my anger a lot better than it was when I was a kid. Am I still an angry person? Oh yeah, dude, I'm fiery, dog.
You refine yourself as an adult. That's what happens with those characters when they're all sitting in the booth and Swann's like, I'm writing a book, and she's like, I went on a hike to Alaska in my child. She was like, I went to Alaska, and she's like got the wine glass on the Instagram story, and it's like, I'm like, perfect. By the way, as well, Luke Bagadost, Michelle Coe, Marin, to anyone at Don't Nod Montreal, you will never be forgiven for the fact that this game opens in the car and Swann Holloway is not listening to the Lost Records Journal. How dare you? In 2022, how is she not listening to this podcast?
Dude, I actually was happy because like I bought Baby Dreamer and I'm listening to Foregone. I'm like, yeah, I know this one. Yeah, dude. Like it was blasting in my ears.
This game is not reflective of the 2022s. It's not. She would have had a podcast open now on Spotify saying the Lost Records Journal.
Yes.
That's what would have been shown there. You would have shown our art, and I'm absolutely furious with that aspect of this. Shame on all of you. No,
they made a pig's dinner of this game for not putting in the Lost Records Journal.
Knock the score down. Put it down to 4. It's not a 4.5 anymore. It would have been a 5 if you would have done that. It would have like knocked it right up there.
Yes.
Generally speaking, I love when they're all adults. And I love that it's in the casual introductions. So like,
and she still has the same relationship with her mom as an adult. Like just the snide remarks, like, "Are you coming for Christmas? Why don't you come visit me?" Blah blah blah. Same thing as a kid, man. Like those parent-child relationships don't really change, man. Yeah.
No, and what I liked as well with that, I loved Autumn's story. I think Autumn's going to get slept on in certain respects, but I think Autumn's story is really quite interesting as an adult, where she's like a social worker, she has a kid, she's had like problems with the relationships. Again, an extension of what she had as a childhood as well, because she had a love interest when she was a kid, and it's like that's going to be nuanced as well. And I think she does really well to like bounce off Swann, if anything, in terms of like that part of the story. But I love when Nora gets dragged into the story as an adult form, and she's sitting next to Autumn, and it's like, I thought we were meant to become rock stars and famous, but I became famous and you didn't. And she's like, do you like, it's like a little bit like, it's like a little bit, a couple of like little jabs. It's like millennial little jabs that she's doing, like, you know, Gen X.
Not even
jabs,
that,
like,
but just kind of like saying like, not believing she didn't have the same aspirations of fame. Like, why don't you want to be famous? It's so cool to be famous. Why aren't you? And then, you know, Autumn is just content. She was content as a child. She was, by the way, I misheard it, man. Like, when you have to get Autumn a drink and it's like, so a beer or a rum and Coke? I'm like, oh shoot, I wasn't listening.
Did you buy a beer?
I bought her a beer because I thought because her dad gave her a beer when they were in Berlin. I thought she said like, yeah. And then when it came to the choice, I was like, oh damn it.
This is as bad as when you threw Kate off the roof. I can't believe you messed this up. Like,
it's the ADHD. It's just like you're like talking and it's like, oh sorry, I was thinking about a record.
I got to the table, she's like, oh, thank you for getting my drink. I was like, you know me, Autumn, I'm on your back.
Kiss. You know, but
by the way, as well, in between that, when you said like it's about, oh, why do you not want to be famous and stuff? That is a 90s trope in terms of becoming a musician as well, which is going to be overlooked as well. Everyone wanted to be a rock star. Every
a rock
person
star, professional skater. What's the other big one that happened? But like professional skater and rock star were like the big two. Like you had
or a film director. They even mentioned
a film director,
about, like the Tarantino. Like when in the garage they talk about like, you know, oh, he wants to be like Tarantino. He works in the films. It's like that. Those like the three ones. But like musician, which a big one. Everyone wanted to be a musician when they were growing up. It's like, I want to be.
I wanted to be a BMX, like a famous famous BMX rider. Never owned a BMX bike my entire life. Never.
we could have had Adam Hoffman as a game as well. We messed that up.
Yeah,
like
it was Dave Mirra for me, man. Dave Mirra. Yeah, like that. That really. I was like, I subscribed to BMX magazines, dude. Like I read. Never owned a BMX bike.
Jesus Christ.
For years, I was like, I'm going to be a professional BMX rider. Never once rode a BMX bike.
Oh my god, yeah. I really enjoyed the adult moments in that game. We'll come on to like some of the other parts later in the game, but like the first part of the game,
we're reminiscing about our time in the 90s because of how impactful this game was. It hit the marks as a millennial / younger Gen X. Like it hit that mark so well that me and you are just reminiscing of what we want to be, like who we were as kids and how we are as adults. It hit the mark, dude. And I hate how people are like, oh, it's a 6 out of 10. Oh, it's a 7. Are you not living on the same planet as me? Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like,
but it also challenges that though as well, because it's like when you answer a question in the future as well, it's like, what did she say for the lyrics, Kat? And it's like you write it down and she says it in the past. But it's like, that's nostalgia though, the game. The game is questioning nostalgia in itself, both being a true coming of age story, but also nostalgia. They're the two themes. Because even in itself, they keep talking about the game. It's like, well, it was really colourful in the 90s. And it's like, oh, actually it was. But it's like, was it as good as it was? Was it really that good in the 90s? Because the 90s weren't, like, you have great memories of them. But like, you know, if you went to the American high school and you got bullied as it was, you're not going to have a good time. If you're Swann, for example, you lived a free-spirited life, fantastic. But she was also very, like, you know, a deep introvert on her own for most of it. So there was like certain caveats there where you kind of like catch it. It's like, maybe.
Yeah.
I enjoyed like that part. It's like, what we gotta say as well, I would admit this admission. When I'm playing this game, when you're in the bar and that barman's like talking to you, and I'm like, he is loving life when he's talking the dialogue.
Yeah.
So when Pam comes over and sits next to him, so it's like when you later in the game, Pam comes and sits on the stool next to him.
I didn't even engage in that conversation. I was like, nope, not doing this.
I was convinced that Pam was like some like Jefferson style character, that she was like a witch that was gonna like mutate and something else. Because she kept looking at me. I was like, what are you looking at? Like, what are you looking at me for? And she just kept looking at me. She's like, and then she looked at the barman. I'm like, one moment, I'm gonna like switch over slightly, and she's just gonna be looking at me. No, my red herring of Pam did not happen. So Pam,
Pam is
as
just
you will.
Pam. She's just
Pam
a Michigan bar like stool. I don't know.
Yeah, she's.
Before we jump into anything else, you asked me before the podcast about the Bloody Mary scene. Why did you bring that up?
Because in the final choice it said that you could leave, and I was like, who's left this?
Yeah. Like, what was the percentage? I didn't even see what the percentage was of how many people left.
It wasn't. I don't think it was that high when I looked at it on the PS5.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, it wasn't that high, but people could leave from it, and I was just like, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's just like I did it all the way through because I'm like, hey, I'm playing a video game. It's not if I was physically in that bathroom stall and they said, oh, you can leave or just say it 13 times, I'm like, I'm leaving. Like I'm gone. Yeah. Like if I was physically there, but I'm like, I'm playing a game.
By the way, Swann's reaction at the end of it is the best when she jumps out of it and she like spooks the other. That is Swann Holloway. That is her personality. So when she jumps out, and she's like, boo, and she gets on. It's like, oh my god! I was like, I love this character. I adore you. I was like, perfectly on the money with that.
I was gonna say, even when like she unlocks the door. By the way, the puzzles in this game, there's very few, but like the puzzles were very smart. Yeah, like to find the clues on the lock, you had to like with your video camera and like see which one like had the alien signal. Like that was really cool. But when she opened the door and she's like, "Do come in," like she didn't try to jump scare them. She just tried to be like this awkward, weird kid, like every time.
There's a dialogue option as well when you're looking inside. She's like, "Help, help!" Inside, you like freak out the other girls from the outside. But she's like, "I'm trapped." It's like, it's so good. You mentioned it earlier as well, and I think it's a highlight. And just let me show you a comparison as well, which was the Truth and Dare sequence in the game. Isn't this a refreshing input of great writing from Jean-Luc, Michel, Desiree, and Nina compared to what's the other game now that had Smash and Pass in the most cringe-worthy scene possible ever existed?
Oh, and Double Exposure. Oh my god, that was so bad, dude.
And I loved in my sequence because in my spoiler segment as well, I dared Kat and she gave us her book, her diary. And then even so it's a really great. It's a really great.
Who did you try to connect with the most? Which one of the girls?
See, someone that I know, one of our listeners, I think it's KJL. KJL said to me, like, "Why is your playthrough so sporadic? Why are you saying this?" I was like bouncing back and forth because I initially did Autumn at first because I thought that was what they're trying to do with us. Then I was like, no, I'm going to go with Nora a little bit here. Yeah. And in parts. And then it's like Nora's telling Kat that I smell, so no. And I don't know if that's a lie or not because I didn't pick the option because I was like, she told me to keep a secret. I settled on Kat. So it was Swann and Kat I'm shipping, which I was like, and I don't know what it was. Kat, we'll talk about Kat in a minute because I think even Natalie steals almost Olivia Lapore's in a really amazing way. Steals Olivia Lapore's thunder in terms of like becomes a character which is like really amazing and it really stands out. And they all do it as well. All the actors like have their moments in this game as well. But in the Truth and Dare sequence that I got as well, because you have the different things you can do, Swann dares Kat to show her diary. Mm-hmm. And Kat is like really like recluse is really like withdrawn about it. And eventually you can double dare. You can do a swamp like I double dog dare down you. And it's like you get to that point and then they get to see the diary and it's like, oh boy. And it's the girls that then have the admission like, Autumn's like, let's call it here. It's like we can't do this.
Do we see like what's in the diary or you just see like, oh boy?
We see the writing.
Ooh.
The contents, I'm going to be honest, I can't fully remember because it was like when it's like showing it. So it's like I need to go back and read through it. I think it's an admission of like where things are at with her. But I would have to go back and watch it again.
Well, we're in Spoilercast, so like with her leukemia.
I don't think it is that. No, I don't think it's I'm gonna like again. Don't jump on me. Like as I said, preface this very early on. We've only played this once, and I wish I had more time with it to kind of like write all these down. It was like a glimpse. It tells you what's in the diary. I don't know what it was at the same time, and I'm trying to keep the key things in my mind for the time being whilst I go back and play through it. But she has like an admission in there of whatever it is. Someone might say in the comments. So thank you for that.
Yes.
But then you have like this kind of like honest admission from Autumn where she's like, enough's enough, and they close the diary. It's like, maturity, and it's like you see the characters develop, and they have the as they call it, the sisterhood, like the characters. It's like it's just perfect, man. They just balance it so well. They think about it as well. It's like, you know to have been a kid in the 1990s with Truth or Dares, and it goes one extreme, and then eventually someone's like, okay, we need to like hold accountability for it.
See, that might have been in girls' circles, but man, when boys played Truth or Dare, oh my god, dude!
No, it was like throw a rock through that window and smash it, and it's like you have to do it. Come on.
Sure, let's just say we stopped at rock through the window. There are some things that I've done in Truth or Dare that I cannot say on this podcast because there's too many things you have to censor, dude. Like Philadelphia and a group of boys playing Truth or Dare in the 90s, not a good mix, dog. Like it.
Yeah.
There were. I'm not gonna go any further. I can't. There were things that happened, Adnan, that changed me as a person. I'm pretty sure it caused my ADHD. Like they say that vaccines cause ADHD or autism. No. It's Truth or Dare in the 90s as a boy.
I'm just going to say to people, I do apologize for not remembering certain parts because I wanted to play this game 3 or 4 times before we did the spoiler cast. But again, we wanted to get our opinions out because it's like, it's just hard when you're the podcast that is about this game, and we have like a very short time frame here. So please do, like, there were certain things I'm going to forget in this.
I do want to talk about Corey's character.
Ooh,
Corey was so 3-dimensional, dude. Like such a good character because, again, like he was a bully, tough guy, like a dirt bike riding. But he cared, you know, he had to be masculine because, again, this is the 90s in America. Like you have to show off like your manhood with your open vest chest with no hair on your chest and your long, like glorious hair, but like my manhood though. The 90s was weird, dude.
Also, as well, whilst you're saying that as well, his manhood was being emasculated by another man as well, his Kat's dad, who he was looking up to. So it's like another soldier is overlooking one soldier. So it's like you can see his vulnerabilities when he talks about it. He's like, I don't want to do this because like Kat's dad's like this. It's like I want to sell the ranch, and you can see he's a different person. But continue there.
But no, like that's the thing. It's like he was kind of a jerk, but like he cared for Kat in the end. Like he cared for Dylan, and Dylan's sister was Kat's, and Dylan also had some 3-dimensional errors. Like Kat's home life and Dylan's home life is not good. Like we've established that. And, you know, Corey is just trying to be like just light at the end of the tunnel for them.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Corey really does care for Kat because at the end scene, right? Like when they were putting on the concert, you can tell like his head is bobbing along. Like he appreciates what they're doing, but he's like looking out for the safety of Kat. Like you can't just be breaking and entering in places. You can't be messing around with electrical work. But like when he sees the performance and we sees that Kat is having a good time, he's like bobbing along. Like he knows that like this is a good thing. And at the very last scene where Kat collapses and Dylan is just like yelling like she has leukemia, don't you understand? And all Corey is focused on is picking up Kat, putting her in the back of the truck without putting up the. By the way, they drove away without like putting up the back door. I'm like, put up the back door, dog. But
90s, that's the excuse. It's the 90s.
Dog. The 90s in Michigan. But like all he was focused on was not yelling at them. Dylan was yelling at them. Corey just went, I need to go make sure Kat is okay. Corey's character had to be. Dude. Okay, here we go. It's ready. Here's hot take time. The most 3-dimensional character that Michelle Coe has ever written, ever.
He's a fusion between Frank Bowers and Dave Madsen for me.
Absolutely. He Michelle knew how to write. In Philip Bach and Jean-Luc, they all learned from Life is Strange, and they put all of their lessons onto Corey. And Corey has to be, once again, I'm sticking with this, the most 3-dimensional character that's ever been seen.
I think he's a great character.
On Michelle's watch. Yeah.
Because ironically as well, we all got it wrong in the sense that we thought that Corey was Kat's brother, despite the fact that now when I look at it, Dylan looks exactly like Kat. I'm like, hang on.
Yeah, when she was yelling at her, I was like, she's like, oh, I'm going to tell mom. I'm like, oh, why didn't we see that? Why didn't we see that? Crap.
because we'll get onto it as well. One of the episodes of Lost Records doing is why we're convinced Kat will live, and it's like we'll talk about that. And like that has aged like milk as an episode so far for the time being. But on that, Jordan Dawson, who's the actor, I think gives that 3-dimensional range even better because his voice as well. It's that he's just not an aggressive hothead, and he's not a stereotypical 1990s hothead. It's the way he does things as well. It's the culmination of the anger and rage that builds up into it, because you can see it as well every time even when he comes up to the 4 girls after they've had the Abyss encounter as well, he comes across as very like at a steady level, and then he slowly gets more angry. Slowly.
But like you can tell he's like holding back punches because like he doesn't want to because he's a good person. Similar way of Frank Bowers. Frank Bowers didn't want to be a criminal. Like he didn't want to be like this, but you could tell there was some edges. Like it very squared off. But like they kind of sanded those edges down on Corey, and they made it much more fluid.
He's literally those two characters fused together for me. Dave Madsen, Frank Bowers. He has so many of those shares because, as you said, when he gets to the end, he's like he's like carrying around. Her sister's like still doing her thing as well. Kat's sister, where she's like screaming at their faces and stuff.
In tape 2, are we gonna say, Corey, the table on it, and it just like kicks in and gets shot?
Get shot by Swann of all people as well. That's what you get for calling
me. The table.
That's Swann's revenge when she's like saying at the Abyss, she's like, for all the cruelty, she's going to shoot Corey. It's like, it's interesting because I was thinking that we didn't get much of Dylan, but I think that's going to be reserved for tape 2, which I'm not going to. That's why I'm not critiquing, because I think there's even trigger ones that we've seen with like hospital scenes, cancer, kind of like diagnosis and stuff, which is again alludes to what the twist is in this game. I think we're going to get more exposition with Dylan in the next tape. So it's going to be like you're maybe in a hospital sequence where they go and seek Kat, maybe, and then Dylan's there.
I didn't see that coming. The leukemia, man. I didn't see that coming.
Should we come into that now, or should we keep talking about Corey?
Man. Okay. Because we talked a lot about the Abyss in our other things, like what's in the Abyss. We didn't really get any answers for that. And if we just talk about what we think is in the box, I think we're not going to have a valid conversation about that, because like all that I think we can talk about in tape 2. But yeah, let's go into the leukemia, because like that was a wild twist, dude.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, again, I only played one playthrough, but like you start seeing shades of it. So it's like Kat's coughing, like I am now when I'm losing my voice. Starts coughing, and it's like the behavior as well. So it's like she's with the characters all the way through. So it's like her mom doesn't want her to be with those girls because she's doing her treatment, and it's like, do you know, it's like it's subtle enough, which I think was where the delivery happens. And it's like when she starts nosebleeding, I'm like, is she going to rewind time? Is she going to rewind time?
That's what I said. Like, I was saying to my wife, who was like right next to me, like, oh, here comes the nosebleeds. She's going to have the powers, and then it's like she has leukemia. I'm like, Michelle Coe just went from sci-fi to like realist. Like that's what as well.
And when you say about Michelle Coe, one of the great things I love is how it cuts to the adults looking out the window where the concert's happening. And it's like, I think even better as well, it shows where Swann sits through a majority of that game, because she only moves to the other side when Nora comes, and also when she's doing the lyrics thing with Autumn. It's really nice how you're sat at that window and you can keep looking outside. And it's like, that just adds to the value of like, actually, we are literally Destination 101 where it happened.
Yes.
And it's like that more impactful where you see them as well. And if it's the 3 of them standing there, and it's like, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. And then you forget, as you said, you forget about the box. Forget about the box. Where it's like, that twist is really good, because I think Kat becomes
I didn't, because like every time they're like, oh, let's go play pool. And I picked up the box and I shook it with the thumbstick. I'm like, what's in the box?
Michelle called me out in this game, because the moment I got into the bar, I went and snooped into Autumn's bag, and I got the trophy for being a snoops. I'm like,
wait, you can do that?
Yeah, when you go through the bar at the beginning of the game, if you go through and they go to Autumn stuff, her bag's there because she's in the bathroom. So you can go to the bag and you can look into her stuff. If you press the L2 button, you can zoom in, and it unlocks a trophy because you're snooping into her stuff. And I feel like I've been called out by Michelle.
Why
Montreal?
Why am I not surprised that's you in real life, though?
But that is me. What do you think I do in my life?
You
have we not
snoop
established
around.
this? Like, yeah, but well, it's a good thing that I do my job, isn't it? I wonder what profession I've got
Again,
into
like
as well.
journalists, like you have to know like what's going on at all times. It's like, yeah, of course, that's what you're gonna do.
I got called out, man. I felt deep with that. But like, generally speaking, the twist was really, it's a subtle twist as well. So it's like that's
Yeah.
a nice thing about it because it adds because you have the sisterhood as it is, and it's like you have the we'll come on to the abyss in a little bit in terms of just as it is. It's like we make abyss wishes, and it's like what's your wish for the abyss, and it's like you see with Kat the way the behavior changes and the way she acts as well. I was like, and when she falls as well, and I think it all adds on during that scene how it plays out. It's like that slow montage, and then it's even like as you said with Dylan going over as well, blaming the girls. Then you have like Corey yelling at them as well, saying like, "This is why she's like this," and it's like,
yeah,
and it's
just
also
like straight up.
It just adds to it as well because like even if you're thinking about like why memories are erased and why things have acted the way they have with the characters as well and why they're feeling the way they are, it makes sense like they wouldn't really remember something like that, the trigger of like something like that, even if it's for example trauma that could even hide something like that, even if it's not the abyss, trauma can hide stuff like that. I'm not going to take shades at another game if anything, but like you can hide things with that with like trauma. It's like it's a defining moment for them. But I just love that one shot where it's like that all happens at a concert, this magnificent event, and then it's like the somber mood hits. And I love that the way they build it up as well, where it's like almost Kat becomes hysterical and she starts saying it, and you think that she's like, oh, it's gonna be some like demonic demon presence that's possessing her, but no, it's caught up to her. And leukemia is not talked about much, really, is it? Like in terms of like that was prolific. I remember like people talk about people having leukemia conditions as well. Like I remember
in
like
the 90s, yeah.
So it's like a
wild.
big thing that's being talked about there, and it's like big talking point that comes out from it. But yeah, I was like I think it was a very good twist in a subtle way. What else are you going to twist on that? Like it just needs to be.
Yeah, it didn't twist in like again like a sci-fi kind of way where you can tell that Michelle Coe did a lot of twists in terms of like Twin Peaks or X-Files kind of twist where it's just like, oh my god, like another piece of lore. No, he brought it to real world, and I'm starting to think that the abyss will be a metaphor for cancer, like in some way,
because it could even be a wishing well, can't it? Essentially, if you're trading something, what are you trading it for? And in itself, you said it at the beginning, near the beginning of this podcast. What does Michelle Coe do? He lands games. He's not gonna make an alien climb out the abyss and then make it sit next to Autumn in the booth, is he? Because then at that point, how do you land something that is illogical even for a sci-fi thriller? It's the same as like 11/23/63. 11/23/63, Stephen King.
Oh, 11/22/63. Yes, correct.
22/63. Yeah, he has that kind of style of storytelling with like Stephen King with Michelle, because it's like there's a supernatural element, but it doesn't define everything because we don't want an alien walking through the game because the alien takes attention away. It's the same, for example, why he's brilliant for this as well. Like, keep it to one character. You play as Swann Holloway. Do not change characters. Because I love, for example, he's a big Final Fantasy fan. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan as well.
I forgot about one game that we know, like the storytelling of Michelle Coe, Captain Spirit. Duh.
Yeah, there you go.
Once again, like Captain Spirit kind of like starts off slow, brings it up in the middle of like why he is like the whole Mantroid. What's the street? Yes, Mantroid, where like that was like this that was the crossing streets of where she got hit. So it's like, and then he lands the plane in Captain Spirit. There is not a single time.
Chris lands quite literally as well.
Quite literally, he lands like Michelle's storytelling. There, dude. I'm not a betting man. I specifically like don't gamble, but man, I will put all the dimes that are in my bank account on the line to know that like tape 2 is going to hit and it's going to land because Michelle is an experienced storyteller. He knows how to set things up and he knows how to land them properly. Versus Deck 9 games, they just skyrocket and then just not even crash land. It's kind of like,
But nothing overshadows the game, though. Because again, the games are driven, Don't Nod, by storytelling. The character drives the story. So Swann Holloway is never overshadowed by any of the other girls. She's always central. Whatever's happening to her is a conduit. It's the same with the Abyss. The Abyss comes into the game. It never overshadows the game. That is a mystery, and that mystery we can have theories with. So, for example, Is it something that actually curses people? Is it something that fulfills their wishes? Is it something that fulfills what their deepest, darkest soul's memories are? What did Autumn wish for? You ask all these questions because that's what the Abyss is. It's just an element within the story. The main focus is on the characters. So we care about Kat when she collapses and we realize the truth. We care about Nora and her relationship with her mother and learning about that. We care about Autumn and her older life as well in terms of being a social worker, a kid, also her past relationships. Swann, it's always about keeping things grounded. You keep things grounded, and you don't see him, for example, splitting off into metaverses. I'm not taking shade at anyone else here. I'm just saying in a general sense. You don't see him diverting the story off too much and being like, honestly, I'm being genuine. I wasn't throwing shade at anyone there. I was being like, genuinely, he knows how to keep the story concentrated. So for me, again, when we get to the Kat thing, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, this is going to take an interesting twist here because it's like, anything can happen, because like even at the beginning of the game you get like a little bit of a montage of things that happen. So for example, we haven't seen the scenes where someone in the trailer, for example, where the house is on fire, or even our little cove that we have, and it's like, even do you notice the little monster thing that happened as well in the opening sequence? It's like weird teeth and stuff.
What?
Maybe you should go back and watch that. It's like a weird
in the beginning of this game, or
there's like a demonic like figure thing that appears briefly during like the montage.
The montage. Wait, are you talking about the trailer, or are you talking about this episode, this tape?
I'm pretty sure this. I need to go back and play this now. God damn it! I swear, there's beginning of this game. There's like a montage part with it's where Adult Swann's in the car and it starts doing like flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Like before you get into the bar.
Okay.
And
yes.
And you get flashbacks, and one of the flashbacks there's like a really demonic creature kind of thing, and it's like obviously we saw the first tape. We saw the first image that we got from Don't Nod Montreal, where it was like the console with the tape inside it. It has that demon figure on it, and it's like, I don't even think that's going to overshadow the story. That's going to be something else as well. Maybe that's like representative of not even like it's not an alien being. It might be what the Abyss manifests in terms of like what people really are as human beings. It might be a metaphor, if anything. So that in itself is discussions. But generally speaking, when we get to the culmination, because it picks up, doesn't it? It's like when you, by the way, here's my take. I put it on Twitter as well. When you're doing the forest sequence, and it's like the Abyss starts to emerge, and Kat standing at the Abyss as well, and you like eventually get to her. Yeah. This is like Michelle Coe doing Sam Lake-esque Alan Wake. It's like Alan Wake meets the Blair Witch Project. I know Michelle's a big fan of Sam Lake, and is it Sam Lake? Sam Lake?
Yeah.
I'm just checking. I'm trying. My mind is getting frazzled here. He's a big fan of Sam Lake, and it's like, it reminds me of that. It reminds me of Stephen King. It reminds me of Blair Witch. It is creepy. One day, I hope Michelle makes like a horror or a psychological thriller game. He could easily do it. He's done it in Life is Strange 1 with the elements of like the dark room and stuff. And I love that moment when you're in the forest and it's like you're following the moths as it is. And it's like we're going through and it's like we get to where Kat is and she's standing on the other side of the abyss.
I think you're going to get that in tape 2. I really do. I think you're going to get that in tape 2. We've set up enough lore that Michelle Coe is like, let's go, boys. Let's go.
With Jean-Luc's story, Jean-Luc and Michelle, when they write stories, Life is Strange 1 and 2 is always the next 3 episodes. It's like the next part always hits.
Because again, you said the dark room. That is episode 4. I mean, even Life is Strange 2, there's not really horror on it, but it gets darker in like the last 4. Like Michelle Coe like sets up nice, bright, like, oh, you're safe, little baby, come here, oh, have your little bottle, and it's like in the episode 4, like just drops the baby. He's like, how about now? Feel safe now? No, he never does. Like, that's the thing. It's just, I'm excited. By the way, one quick side note that I forgot to bring up: the drum machine. I had a beat that slapped, dude. I was like, no, this is the correct pattern right here, right now. All the patterns. I don't even remember the pattern, but I should have taken like a screenshot of like what I had, like which selection I made. But I was like, oh, this is the best one. The drum machine, peak. Loved it.
I felt like Ross on the keyboard from Friends. That's what I felt like when I was doing it. I was like dun 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 moo. Like, that's me. Honestly, that's a great little touch. That's like another, again, it's formulaic and different as well, because it's like we haven't seen stuff like that before, and now they can kind of tweak things. This is why it's got a high rating from us, because it's like I will go back and play this game again and again and again, and I'm very happy we now have a podcast which talks about this game as well, because it's great, because it's got so many elements to it. That's a great moment in it. I even love the moths, for example. I know some people are saying saying that maybe they're not using butterflies because obviously Life is Strange and copyright issues and stuff. I think moths signified something else though. Think about the 90s. What's one of the most famous 90s films that uses moths? Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Very
it has
true.
undertones. Moths have different meanings as well. So it's like when you connect that with the game, it's like, oh, actually, that's really interesting with that. I think early in the game, there's also, I think, like almost one moment where it says your choices might have consequences. I can't remember where it was.
There was like very subtle. Yes,
yeah,
I do.
Life is Strange references, of course. Like the Vortex Club's in there. There's butterflies, one or two here. Obviously, they're going to do stuff like that. So it's natural. And I expect maybe like Life is Strange 2 references more in the next episode or something. But it's just tweaking things. So it's like every moment I was playing on this game, and as I said to you before, when Swann's there and she can make her wish at the abyss, I'm like, that's character development. Great. She's coming into her own person. And it's the same with like Autumn. Autumn has this kind of like, her personality comes out where she's like, I don't want to take part in this like blood thing that we're doing. I'm not going to take part in the abyss. And then she's like, I kind of regret not making a wish straight away, Swann. And it's like, I love the character dynamics, because I even like we talked about.
Did you take the blood oath, by the way?
Yeah, of course I did.
I didn't.
What is wrong with you, man? Like what? Your choices are broken in this game.
No, I did not. I was like,
you tried to call me out for my code before, and it's like you did that. You messed up everything else. It's like, come on, man.
I caught a disease before by doing something like that back in the 90s in Philly. I ain't doing that again, man. Like blood on blood, that disease goes passing by. I'm like, nope. I made the same mistake, Swann, so that you can live. So there's that.
That's an interesting thing that you mentioned though as well, because I remember, was AIDS the 80s scare? Or was it the 90s?
Well, it was late 80s going into the 90s, yeah.
Because they talked about it a lot, like Magic Johnson, high profile stuff. I was surprised that no one like made like maybe even a joke about it in the game in terms of a character. Like it wasn't commentary on there when they were like touching hands or something. Or did they allude to it? I think maybe Nora might have.
It wasn't really something insulting. It was more of just like, again, when Magic Johnson came out and said he had AIDS, like people cried because they thought it was like a terminal disease. Like they again, that would be like telling somebody like, haha, you have leukemia. Like to say like you're gay.
Stigmatized, wasn't it though? Gay, if you were gay, it was stigmatized. If you were lesbian, you were stigmatized. If you had AIDS, it was deeply stigmatized.
It was called gay cancer. Like that's what it was called in the 90s. People called it gay cancer because they just alluded it to,
which is horrific
gay people
as well.
It was
absolutely horrific.
Again, like if it wasn't for Magic Johnson, I don't want to say like, oh, thank God Magic Johnson got AIDS. But like, if it wasn't for Magic Johnson, people were like, oh, he's definitely not gay at all. Like, and the fact that he got it and still survived, like that changed how
it created awareness, didn't it? Like a welcomed awareness as well for people to like actually go through that and then go through treatment and not stigmatized as it like is. Because like you talk about it now in 2022, like 2020, 2000. Sorry, the 2020s.
What year is it, Adnan?
Well, I was going to make the pandemic point, but we'll come on to that, so we need to have a conversation about it. But like the 2020, like no one stigmatizes that. Like, you know, you'd have to be like a juvenile child to even think about that, because it's not as topical as they'd call it as it was in the 90s. It was like, you know, you'd have like Bill O'Reilly on a broadcasting saying something. That's it was an interesting experience. By the way, as well, the pandemic as well for a theme. I found that interesting to be included in the game.
I mean, here living in the States, and I looked on the I looked on the phone booth, and it like had graffiti of saying like masks. It said mask slave, and then it was somebody crossed out slave, and then put apostrophe or just put an S on mask, so masks, and then they wrote save. So like there is evidence of kind of like there's evidence of people writing on what their opinions were and then like correcting those opinions. We don't see anybody wearing masks, but we see the evidence of what COVID did to American like citizens. Because again, in England, I'm sure there was some, there were some comments about wearing masks, sure, but like in America, Like there's this whole thing of like, this is a free country. I don't need to know, because of like how much we love our free country, blah, blah, blah. Man, again, I tell the story all the time. I was spit on, like working as a host in a restaurant. I'm sorry that you have to wear a mask to come into the restaurant, and somebody spit on me. I'm like, cool, thanks. I thank you. I can't fist fight you, but I will actually. But like, no, it's just like there's contention on that. There's still contention to this day about it. So I thought it was pretty like spot on.
So I think it's fine with being in there. I think it's almost meta for them, because I think because when we were covering this game, you remember we had like photos of Luke and Michelle with the masks on when they're doing the motion capture stuff, masks on. I think it's maybe a thing for them as well, especially to kind of tell that story where it's like pandemic happened, it deeply affected us. It's happened in other games where they've kind of like used it as commentary, because I don't think it's overarching to the rest of the game, because a lot of stuff happened. I think they're just making it topical. Yeah, the evidence, the remnants of what's happened. It's 2022. I think it was like for them quite a defining moment in their thing. So I feel like they've interlaced it within it, because it doesn't go throughout the rest of the game really. To be honest, it's like
they don't even really bring it up. They just you see a mask in Swann's car. You see graffiti about it on the phone
bar
booth
as well,
at the bar. Yeah, so like you see that it happened, and that's the thing. We're gonna be talking about the pandemic for years. Our grandkids are gonna be talking to it like about us. Like what was it like? I'm like, scary, and then after 2 years we were all pissed, and then another 2 years we were even more pissed. So like that's the thing. It was a defining time in the world. So
it's technically like this generation's financial crisis, isn't it? It's like the one defining moment. Like we had the financial crisis, like, which was big. Millennials have gone through everything, but like that was a key defining moment. This was a big one as well for people across all ages. But I think it has continued. But generally speaking, it was interesting to see as a theme in the game, and there were a lot of highlights in this game. There were just a lot of general highlights. I just enjoyed moments. Again, like, I wished we just had more time with it, because I would love to have just sat there, played it 2 or 3 times. We come on a podcast, and I can like remember all these other things. I made notes at first. I'm like mentally logging them in the back of my mind. But it's like, I just wish we had a bit more time to kind of like do it. Because I think obviously we've got a podcast. We'll keep talking about these things. And I'm going to go back to the game as well at some point in this week as well. But I just thought, because like in itself as well, like I said as well, you see how concentrated the game is. So they reuse assets, like in terms of we go to the ranch, we do this. Not a dig, by the way. I'm saying in the sense of the scale of the game. Very small number of actors in the game as well. So you see how concentrated this game is. It's like it has to rely on Swann sitting at the booth, remembering things, and to kind of help pace the story on that. In itself as well, I think at Kat's Ranch as well, there's the lock as well. Do you know Dylan and Corey's lock? It's like hanging. It was in the preview footage.
Yes.
I know the code of that, but I think that's going to be linked to a story point later in the game. So I imagine Take 2 will probably revisit that area so you can unlock it. And I've not unlocked it for that reason. I've kind of like just left it there. But I just enjoyed a lot of the moments. I enjoyed my time with the characters as well. I think Nora steals the show at certain points in that game as well. I think she's hilarious. I think she's just fantastic. I think Natalie probably had Amelia probably had the time of her life playing that character, because that character for me is nuanced in only very small doses, but the rest is like pretty hot and heavy. And oh, by the way, one thing I really appreciated was at the moment of each new major chapter starting, it was like the little, is it a vignette of the characters? So it's Swann speaking to Kat, Nora, and Autumn, and she did the biography things. I was like, that felt very 1990s. That I was like, there's something about it. Do you like the home video style? It's like, and tell me about
the talking heads. Yeah, it's like, tell me about something you like. And Kat's was like so like provocative, man. Like not provocative, but just very harrowing. I loved how they end on that. It was very just like, do we have to talk about this? This is dumb. Like she is very just like, don't talk about me. I will give you my surface level. Like I like winter. My favorite color is blue. Like very surface, but like, oh, what's your home life like? Don't talk about that. Like you get to know the surface. Whereas I feel like Nora was an open book. Nora,
we got the mom stuff, which was kind of like heavy with her, but it was kind of like like free spirited. She reminded me of Chloe Price a lot. At that point, it was like, we'll speak her mind.
And then Autumn is just content with life. Autumn is just like, I'm here, I'm enjoying things. I like rum and cokes. Remember that I like rum and cokes. I hate beer, rum and coke. And I'm like,
terrible. That's just like
beer?
That's as bad as sacrificing Arcadia Bay. That choice, like messing that
Well, I
up.
was
I can't
drinking a
believe
PBR when I was playing this game too. So I was drinking a beer. It's like, she wants beer. Beer's good.
I even enjoyed doing the montages on the beach as well. When you go down to like where you have your resident den that you guys set up, which by the way as well, efficient for young women to clean this little den up and like make it like they made it like a really nice house as well. By the way, as well on the market in Velvet Cove, that would be worth about $2 million as well. So they got prime real estate there as well that they've just owned themselves. But I love the little montage when it's like little summer, like summery-esque, like, you know, montage shots where it's like they're on the beach and they go inside the water and it's like vibing with each other.
Yeah.
Again, it reminds me, it has all the core elements of Oxenfree. And for me as well, it's a testament that Michel can now stand on his own with those talented, if not already he could stand on his own, but on the same par as the Night School Studio people who make those great storytelling, dialogue-driven games. And I just feel like he's just naturally evolved into that process. And then same with Jean-Luc as well. It's just nice to have Jean-Luc back, have Philip back, have Luke there, have Michel there, have Juliet, have people who worked on Life is Strange. It is from the creators of Life is Strange. That's one of the best things for me. It is from the creators of Life is Strange. And for me as well, and I take a lot of joy in this as well, having covering it for 10 years as much as I have in terms of like Don't Nod and stuff like that, and having you as well. I think you've always hit the nail on the head really well, which is that you like, this is Deck 9 storytelling and this is Don't Nod storytelling. Yeah. And the first thing that I'm finding out with this game is it's pointing out the people who are posers for me. I'm going to be hipster here. It's pointing out the posers in the sense that these people are saying, oh, well, this is a little bit like this. And it's like, for me, it just shows you never really got the point of the first Life is Strange or the second Life is Strange. That's my honest take with it. And I will argue to the end of the day. I know if you really appreciate what they're doing in those games. Does it mean you can criticize their games? Of course it does. Adam didn't like Life is Strange 2 at one point. I made him a convert. No, I'm being like, I have issues with Michel's games, and the same with like Don't Nod's games as well. But it's what they're doing and how they're presenting it. So it's like, for me, yes, pacing is slightly an issue. However, I'm also spending a time with an introverted character. And I also kind of expect you to keep me in this bedroom for a while because it's going to take a bit of push to get out there, isn't it? You know, she's not going to just leave the bedroom on her own accord. It is a little bit of an introverted nature. So I enjoyed all the thematic elements in it, and I loved the character development. One thing that I was really happy with, and you mentioned it before with Corey, and I imagine we're coming to the end of this. There's loads of things we could talk about this. With Corey, is he's not one-dimensional. There's more to him, and they end it on that perfect note. Every character at the end of tape 1 has a very interesting stepping stone for the next part. From Nora to Autumn to Swann to Corey to Dylan as well. I know Dylan's going to play a big role in that next tape, and I'm looking forward to it. Because I got to the end of the tape thinking, like, I wish we saw a bit more of that. And it's like, when you see what happens to Kat, then it's like, oh, now we're going to go into sister relationship here. And we're going to really start redefining that dynamic as well. Because you see Kat just being really hostile to Dylan. And it's like, but you can sense she cares about her as well. And it's like, we're going to get into those like little fine details. Yeah, honestly, this game slaps. People will sleep on it. It is breathtaking for me. In the most like generic review style, breathtaking. It's a must play. It is fantastic. I am happy that we got a code from Don't Nod. I will 100% forever be grateful to the Don't Nod team for giving us a code for that, especially for Marin. Like, we are no ones in this realm as well. We are really no ones. We are so small. I never let any fame and notoriety or anything get to my head. We are no ones, but they kind of like reached out to us, gave us codes from it.
I'm just the dumpster fire that came out of Philly.
Exactly. And I'm the dumpster fire that lives in England. Like, it's a combination working in two. But I'm glad that they gave us code, but then also I'm glad that I paid my money, which I'd already kept aside from this, and bought this game because I 100% want to support Don't Nod. The industry would be a very bleak place without Don't Nod in it. In my opinion, I just think you would lose the magic, you'd lose the soul of the industry, you'd lose the music, you'd lose the art, you would lose everything that makes the video game industry great with Don't Nod going away, because that's what Don't Nod is. Since 2015, from Life is Strange, they've offered something in every single one of their games. Jusant, Banishes. I don't even have to play these games either. I know it from Jusant, Harmony, Banishes. It's music, it's graphics, it's soul, it's storytelling, it's principles, it's beliefs. All these things are always kept in their game. And this is like such a great starting point with Lost Records, because for me, I'm excited for tape 2 already. I'm also excited for the future. I'm excited to see what they do with more tapes of it, what they do with the anthology model, where they go from it, which characters they want to carry on with, etc., etc. Generally speaking, it's a great experience. The first tape's not going to be anywhere near as spoiler heavy as we talk about, because the next tape is where I imagine all the spoilers are going to come flying in, and we've got 2 months or so to kind of talk about it. And generally speaking, if you guys do have any topics or anything you want us to focus on, let us know, because we'll get into it. But for me, it's just that this game, I need more time of it. I really need more time of it. And even still as well, I'm happy to put a 4.5 score out there. And I know my mind wouldn't change if I go back to it, because I think that
Kind of Funny's review of it. Oh my god, no!
Get Greg in there. Get Greg in there, man. I found it weird.
Well, like that's the other thing. All 3 of them were just like, all 3 of us at the table, so we're all Life is Strange people. I'm like, no, you're not. You're straight up not. No, you're not.
It's not tribalism either about Life is Strange. It's a debate. So I've always said this. I love Deck 9 in different respects as well. I know a lot of talented people that work at Deck 9, and the same with Don't Nod as well. I'm not tribalistic about one person making something like that, because they both have their strengths, they both have their weaknesses. However, one thing I've got very well with at least last 10 years of Life is Strange, and more so just covering it on podcast discussions with you and yourself, is how much people miss the point of what a Life is Strange game is. And people always lose point of it as well. What is the first Life is Strange game? It's a coming of age story. That's what it is. It's forever that game. And that's what's lost in like future iterations or other things that happen to it. You have to keep it to the point. Is Swann Holloway ever overshadowed in this game? No.
Not once.
She's your one constant. And that's why I love this game so much. She's one of the great characters as well. And it's great from the performance to the VO work to the character design. They keep her as a constant from it. And I would put these 4 as well on the par of Final Fantasy 15. I love that game. Was the biggest what if. I wished like Final Fantasy 15 would have reached the heights that it did. We're thankful we got it. But one of the things that keeps Final Fantasy 15 great, in my opinion, in certain respects, is the 4 characters. The 4 boys, Noctis and his boys, Ignis, all of them, they carry that game. This game doesn't need carrying by the 4 characters, but they accompany it. Fantastic. Love all 4 of them. Love all 4 of the girls. I hope we see Kat in the next tape. I'm sure we do. Kat, please do not die. That episode's going to age like milk, if not.
Yes.
But I do think we'll see her, because I think that there's going to be setups for maybe that the Abyss offers her something and gives her like another opportunity, etc. There's something about it, like even some of her outfits as well, when she has like the star signs and stuff on it. It's like, it feels like, because like when you're in the cabin as well, and you're zooming in on things, and it's like that alien static thing happens. It's like, I feel like there's going to be more to her story, if anything. And I feel like, I don't know, man. I just have a funny feeling. There's something about it. I think the leukemia thing's a little bit of a revealing thing for me in terms of where we go from here. I love this game. I really love this game. I'm so happy that it's turned out the way it has. And I'm happy that the people who I know as well, who Life is Strange fans, really love this as well. And it like opens the idea of it. Is it going to hook everyone? No. But at the same time, I think like you just need to play it as it is. Yeah, of course. You need to approach this game as it's not Life is Strange. At that point, you'll enjoy it, because it's not it's not pretending to be Life is Strange. They're not making a carbon. This is not a carbon copy Life is Strange game. This is not a clone of Life is Strange. It's the same as Tell Me Why. Tell Me Why is not a Life is Strange game, is it? It's made by a different team. It's made by a different division of Don't Nod. It's its own thing. It's a really enjoyable experience. It could have been, I think it could have had more edge to it, if anything, but it's still a very good experience. Same with this game. This game is that same vein of 2025 storytelling that, for example, Square Enix needs to look at and be like, this is what Life is Strange has to be. We'll come on to it in a StrangeCast topic, because we need to use this as a comparison, because they need to look at this game and be like, they understand. Because like, it only takes one thing for this game to fly off. If this game flies off, Adam, Square Enix is going to panic, in my opinion. They're going to be like, because what else challenges Life is Strange in this market now? Nothing. It's like
nothing.
Well, it's a legacy game anyway as well. Like the sequels have never iterated in the way that this game has. So it's like things have changed. And I wouldn't just give it a 4.5 review because I like Don't Nod and I like Michelle. I was blown away by what I was seeing in terms of the mechanics of the story, the dimensions of the game, the music, the voiceover work, the performances, the camera, the storytelling, the choices. I will go back to this game and make about 4 or 5 different options. We just did the Truth or Dare segment. You got one choice that I didn't get. I got a different experience. And it was like, for me, that was one of the best scenes that I think you've missed out on the entire game in terms of the Truth and Dare sequence, in terms of Swann with the diary. So generally speaking, I'm loving this. And we're over 2 hours now. Adam, any last opinions to put out there?
Where's the merch? Where's the merch? Where's the merch? I'm just saying that right now. I'm looking Don't Nod official website. Right now I'm not seeing merch. Where's the merch?
Give me a Bloomin' Rage banner like they do in the game. Get me a flag with Bloomin' Rage on it. I'll put it there. I'll get rid of this one.
I just want a T-shirt. I just want a T-shirt.
They did do T-shirts at Gamescom. If you went to Gamescom,
but at Gamescom, I'm not in Germany, man. Okay, where's the merch? That's all that's all I want.
I hope it's successful. I think Don't Nod, if this was successful, they would monetize this really well in terms of merchandise and stuff. Like that's the one thing that Life is Strange never really had in terms of like properly. It's got its couple here and there like merchandise pieces, but I think like obviously you've seen the vinyl and stuff. I hope it's successful, so we get like collector's editions and signed versions and stuff. It'd be amazing like that. But yeah. Very happy. So let's leave it at that. I'm gonna have to turn this over in record time. Hopefully, if you do get this on the Thursday, I don't know how you're gonna get it on the 20th, but I don't know. We're recording the 19th for context. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game as well as much as we did. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Obviously, it's very important for Lost Records Journal. It feels like a milestone moment for us with this podcast as well. Yeah. So thank you so much. Also, as well, shout out to your friends. If people have got involved with Lost Records, let them know as well, because it's always nice for people to find us as well, and it's always nice to have experienced the conversations we've had with people as well. Which is always good as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think about Lost Records. We're very equally excited to hear about your opinions. Again, apologies for not remembering every little detail. More time would be great, but we are going to spend a lot more time with this game, so don't worry about like our memories will refresh themselves as it is. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here and you enjoyed the video, even if you didn't, you should like the video, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you don't like this video, I'm going to throw you in the abyss.
Damn.
It's true though. It's a trading offering. I'm going to trade with the abyss a like, so I'll throw you into the abyss and I'll get a like.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. It fulfills wishes, doesn't it? Or curses.
Sure.
It's going to do one of the things, but yeah, that's what's going to happen. So please like the video or you go into the abyss. Either way, as well, the Lost Records Journal is available on all podcast services. So available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So please do go over there, subscribe, because you get instant access as soon as the episodes come available. And you can also download them as well and have them at your own free will as well. And also rate us as well, please. It's going to be really helpful for us. So stay tuned for the Adam. Stay tuned to the channel, because we have Adam's idea coming up, which hopefully should drop on the Sunday this week, which will be review the reviews, because even Adam told me some of the kind of funny takes that I didn't hear in the full thing, and I'm going to go and watch them now. I only watched the first half and some outrageous ones in there. But we're going to do the reviews. We're going to look at the opinions, because I don't think a 74 is respectable. It should be in the 80s, if anything.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, as well, can I just say something? I did say that it could get a 78 on that review predicting Metacritic score. I did say it on the lower end. It's Michelle, man. It's always it's a 9 or a 6. It's a variation of things. I think it was Mitch Dyer at IGN gave the first Life is Strange, like the first episode, a 6 out of 10. And I'm like, there's things that have aged like milk, and that opinion has aged like milk. Not a chance in hell the first Life is Strange episode is like a 6 out of 10. Like, get out of here. Anyway, I'm going to leave this over. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, a lot more excitement to come with Lost Records. We're very excited. Again, thank you so much to Don't Know. We really appreciate it. We love you guys. And same with Don't Nod Montreal as well. I hope your game cracks through with people as well and gets more people on board with us. But anyway, take care. We'll see you later. Bye.
Later.